We have reconvened from closed session. I have the following report out. By a 5-0 vote, the City Council authorized the City Attorney's Office to initiate litigation in one matter. The name of the defendants and details are not subject to disclosure at this time. Once litigation is filed, this information will be disclosed to any person upon request. With that, I will, we have 3.1.
We do have an open session.
Yes.
And for that item, the one item of our open session for 3.1 is a proclamation recognizing May 19th through the 25th, 2024 as National Public Works Week.
Excellent. And assisting will be Councilmember Suen.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, appreciate it. Who are we presenting to this evening? Someone coming down to the podium?
We have our
Public Works Director. That would be perfect.
Coming around the horn.
You weren't moving, Jeff, so I wasn't sure. Well, this brings me great joy as one civil engineer to another. Greatly appreciate all the work you and your department do to keep our city running safe, clean, and I know from time to time there may be a little bit of traffic, but for the most part, traffic-free, I would say. So May 19th to the 25th, whereas public works services provided in our community are an integral part of our citizens' everyday lives, and whereas the support of an understanding and informed citizenry is vital to the efficient operation of public works systems and programs such as fleet and facilities, recycling and waste, traffic, drainage and flood control, street maintenance, real estate, engineering, and construction. And whereas the health, safety, and welfare and quality of life of the City of Elk Grove residents greatly depends on these services. And whereas the quality and effectiveness of these services, as well as their planning, design, construction, is vitally dependent upon the efforts and skills of public works employees, and whereas the efficiency of the qualified and dedicated personnel who staff the Department of Public Works is influenced by the public's attitude and understanding of the importance of the work they perform. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Elk Grove hereby proclaims May 19 to the 25th, 2024 as National Public Works Week in the City of Elk Grove and urges Elk Grove residents and civic organizations to acquaint themselves with Elk Grove Public Works services and programs. Jeff, you know that as our citizenry takes it for granted, I think, for the most part, but it's one of those things where all things are going well. The minute or when the things are going well, you don't pay much attention, but the minute something goes wrong, a street gets flooded, crack in the road, traffic, everybody notices. So please know all the work you and your staff do are greatly appreciated in our city. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Councilmember Suen.
Thank you, Mr. Warner.
You're very welcome, and thank you all for your ongoing support. I mean, we couldn't do it without your support, and we couldn't do it without our staff too. And I think that's what National Public Works Week is all about, is recognizing the employees of public works departments all across the world and the amazing work they do and the contributions they make to the quality of life for all of our citizens. So thank you to my staff, certainly. Again, thank you for your support. I want to highlight we had a fantastic Big Truck Day event today. Yeah. It was incredible, bigger and better than ever. And, again, really grateful for the staff that we have and the support that we have from our city council and all of our staff here at Elk Grove.
Awesome.
Excellent. Congratulations. We'll be right down.
Thank you. Congratulations. Congrats.
All right.
Do that.
All right.
Are you ready? Okay. 1, 2, 3. Got one more. 1, 2.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, with that, we will adjourn the special meeting at 6:11 p.m. and switch over to our regular meeting. At this time, I will call to order the Elk Grove City Council regular meeting. Today is Wednesday, May 22nd, 2024. The time is 6:11 p.m. Clerk.
Thank you, Mayor. This meeting of the Elk Grove City Council will be cablecast on Metro Cable 14, the local government affairs channel on the Comcast Consolidated Communications and AT&T Uverse cable systems. The meeting is closed caption and webcast at metro14live.saccounty.gov. Tonight's meeting replays will be on Friday, May 24th at 1 p.m. and Tuesday, May 28th. Also, and at 9 a.m. on Channel 14. Previous meetings can be viewed online at the 3Ws, elkgrovecity.org or youtube.com/MetroCable14. For members of the participating audience who may have personal electronic devices, please place them on silent mode during the meeting or on mute when you are not speaking. Elk Grove City Council welcomes, appreciates, and encourages participation in the City Council meeting. City Council requests that you limit your presentation to 3 minutes per person so that all present will have time to participate. City Council reserves the right to reasonably limit the total time for public comment on any particular noticed agenda item as it may deem necessary. Pursuant to Resolution Number 2010-24, no individual speaker concerning public comment may address the City Council for more than 3 minutes. If you wish to address the Council during the meeting, please complete a blue speaker card, which can be found at the back of the chamber, and provide it to Assistant City Clerk Brenda Haggard prior to consideration of the agenda item. And with that, Mayor, I will move on to the roll call. And for the roll call, I will start with Councilmember Robles.
Present.
Councilmember Spies.
Present.
Councilmember Suen.
Here.
Vice Mayor Brewer.
Here.
And Mayor Singh Allen.
Here. All right, thank you. Next up is our land acknowledgement. Assisting is our Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. We honor, respect, and acknowledge Elk Grove's first inhabitants, the Plains Miwok, who lived as sovereign caretakers of this land and these waterways since time immemorial. We commemorate and advocate for their descendants, the Wilton Rancheria tribe, the only federally recognized tribe in Sacramento County, who endure because of the bravery, resiliency, and determination of their ancestors, tribal members, and leaders.
All right, thank you. Next up is our Pledge of Allegiance. I'd like to invite Councilmember Robles to help lead.
Hand of heart, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. At this time, please join us for a brief moment of silence. Thank you. Next up is our approval of the agenda. May I get a motion?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Under Section 3, there are no closed session items on the regular agenda, which will advance us to Section 4, presentations and announcements. And our first and second proclamation is item 4.1, which are proclamations recognizing May 2024 as Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander Heritage Month.
Excellent. So we have two wonderful honorees this evening. So I would like to, at this time, call up Ms. Khadija Alam to the podium. And this is Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, May 2024. Whereas Asian Americans, Native Hawaiians, Pacific Islander encompasses many ethnic groups with diverse backgrounds, histories, languages, and cultures, AANHPI Heritage Month celebrates the collective accomplishments of these communities. Khadija Alam is the Executive Director of the California Commission on Asian and Pacific Islander American Affairs, CAPIAA, the only ethnic commission established by California state law whose mission is to address the diverse and complex needs, issues, and concerns of Asian American and Pacific Islander American communities. And whereas Khadija is a respected community leader whose lived experiences as a Pakistani immigrant and her hard work have led her to be where she is today, and whereas Khadija Alam is a high-impact strategist and government affairs expert, a passionate, determined, and fierce advocate for her community. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Elk Grove hereby affirms and proclaims May 2024 as Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander Heritage Month in the City of Elk Grove and recognizes Khadija Alam for her incredible advocacy in uplifting and mobilizing for a stronger and more resilient community. please help recognize Khadijah. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Madam Mayor, for this tremendous honor. To this council members and to the community, good evening. I'm deeply humbled to receive this proclamation today in the presence and prayers of my parents who are not here today, but my family, my 3 children, and my friends, and in front of this community, wonderful community of Elk Grove, which I have the joy of calling home. This acknowledgement is incredibly meaningful. It not only celebrates me as an individual, but also recognizes what and who I represent. It acknowledges an entire community. I am proud to stand here today also as the first South Asian Executive Director of the California API Commission, representing over 6 million Asian American and Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander Californians. I stand here as a proud South Asian woman and a proud Muslim woman as well. The API community is the second largest population in Elk Grove and the fastest growing in the state. Elk Grove is also home to over 50,000 Muslim Americans, by some numbers 75,000. I want to take this opportunity to say a few things, if I may. The past 7 months have been incredibly difficult for Muslim Americans, many in the city of Elk Grove. I want to ask this council, what have you done to acknowledge their pain, their suffering, their anger towards the injustices? Have you leveraged your position of power to speak on behalf of your constituents? Elk Grove is home to many who have lost their loved ones in Gaza, Palestine. Have you shown up in solidarity? If you have not, I urge you to reach out to many who look like me and ask us, what can you do more to be fully representative of one of the most beautifully diverse cities in the state of California, Elk Grove? When we say diversity is our strength, Elk Grove truly embodies that spirit. Elk Grove is a beautiful place to raise a family thanks to the policies this council has prioritized. Madam Mayor Singh Allen, by proclaiming and celebrating this, you honor all of us who see themselves represented, and I thank you for that. Madam Mayor, thank you for being a steadfast friend. I accept this proclamation today with a proud sense of pride and responsibility. I do so for those who I represent, for those who see themselves in what I represent, for those who came before me, and for the courageous individuals who will come after me, including our sisters, brothers, daughters, and sons. And most importantly, I accept this on behalf of my children, Ayan, Hadi, and Zoya, who are here today as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We're going to come down and present this to you. Would the rest of the family like to join?
I'm just a friend.
It's okay, friends or family too.
Sure, why not?
My husband doesn't want to come.
Of course.
So much.
Mwah.
How y'all doing?
Proud of mommy, huh? Yeah.
Boom. Get you right over here. Boom. Come on, Dad.
You've got an awesome, amazing mom here. Here, you want to hold this up? Or you want to have your son hold it up?
Why don't you stand right here? Okay.
Oh, we're hiding her beautiful face. All right, here we go. Are we all good?
Okay.
Okay.
It'll be a two phone shoot, so hold on. Ready? 1, 2, 3. More with this. 1, 2, 3. Other phone. 3. 3. Thank you.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Great work.
need you back over here.
And next up is no other than Coach V. So Coach V, would you like to come to the podium? And presenting
Coach
that
V.
will be our Vice Mayor.
Thank you. Coach, I hope you're doing well today.
Good to see you, Brother Rod.
And we have a really, I think, the work you've been doing in Elk Grove over the years, and definitely through your influence through many different lights, but really with the Invictus Foundation and really reaching out and helping a lot of young lives and enhancing and creating good, young, strong adults is something to really be accredited and really take great pride in reading this resolution and proclamation to recognize your work in the community. So with this proclamation for Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, May 2024, whereas Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander encompasses many ethnic groups with diverse backgrounds, histories, languages, and cultures, AANHPI Heritage Month celebrates the collective accomplishments of these communities. And whereas Viliami Tuavai, Coach V, is a success coach, author, national keynote speaker, community leader, and Hollywood radio show host and executive. And whereas a child of immigrants from Tonga, Coach V attributes who he is today to faith, hard work, and the American dream, which resulted in 125 wins and 11 years of NC2A football. And whereas Coach V founded the Invictus Youth Foundation, a community nonprofit in 2014 with a mission to advance the youth and at-risk youth of the Sacramento region. For more than a decade, tens of thousands have gained value from his Pacifica spirit, mesmerizing energy, and transformational empowerment. Now therefore be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Elk Grove hereby affirms and proclaims May 2024 as Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander Heritage Month in the City of Elk Grove, and recognizes Viliami Tuavai, Coach V, for his commitment to empowering people to build their best lives and bring their best to their work, thereby serving and uplifting the value of the community. Signed on this day, May 22nd, 2024.
Thank you, Brother Rod. Councilman Robles, pleasure to finally meet you. Councilman Spees, Councilman Swin, Brother Vice Mayor Rod Brewer, and Madam Mayor Bobby Singh Allen, thank you so much for this huge honor. As I do not see myself as a representation or a leader of the Pacific Island community, but mainly its main servant. It is said that if you wish to be a great leader and wish success to be attracted to you, you must not only be able to lead, but you first must serve. My congratulations to Khadijah, and thank you for the amazing work that it is that you do. And for Invictus Youth Foundation, we have a camp coming up June 7th and 8th, free camp, ages 8 through 12. We'll have 400 kids in 2 days come through our free camp that day. We will do another camp during Thanksgiving week, because poor kids have nowhere to go during Thanksgiving. So we do at the Wackford. We'll have just about 400 kids come through for 2 days at the Wackford. And in December, we're going to do our free volleyball camp, as well as our free snowboarding and ski camp for kids of not only the Elk Grove community, but the community abroad. It is our hope at Invictus Youth Foundation that each child in our program knows what character is, that they make choices that reflect the highest level of integrity, that they absolutely believe that they can excel in academics, and that they strive to be a champion in every phase of their life. Upon this year, September 6th, Friday, September 6th of this year at District 56, I will bring a worldwide professional development conference to District 56, bringing all the Fortune 1,500 and 100 companies it is that I coach, teach, train, and speak to here to our city. Because I just don't live here. As Khadijah said, this is our home. So we brought that conference first and foremost before moving to Salt Lake City, having a conference there, the same Empowerment to Success conference, as well as Las Vegas in the Bay Area, heading to Hawaii. Then we'll go to Australia and New Zealand We're going to start right here in Elk Grove. Empowerment is a fickle thing because we think it is something that we can grant others versus helping others self-empower themselves to grant themselves permission and authority to do, become, and achieve what it is that they want in life, leadership, and business, to claim their rights and to take control of their life. It is my humble honor for my family and I to be tied together to this city on this day with a proclamation such as this, that no one of my forefathers has ever experienced. And on the passing of my father this past Easter, that the name Tuivai be proclaimed in this city is a great honor. So I thank you all. I don't know you all, but Sergio, we're about to do Makunis and sushi soon. And Police Chief, we have not met yet, but I look forward to meeting with you here as well. And to all of you that are here in the community that would see value, a value proposition in doing, because there's money in the transaction. But as we all know, the wealth is in the relationships. Thank you so much for this great honor. My family and I are so grateful. And again, we all know these types of recognitions don't come because of just leadership and value proposition, but our willingness to serve. Again, Elk Grove, I just don't live here. This is my home. Thank you so much.
So we'll come down and join you for a picture. And if the family could come and join Coach V as well, that'd be great.
Thank you, Brother Rod. Thank you. Thank you so much for this. Sergio, oh, sorry. Pleasure to finally meet you.
You must be so.
I'm Sergio. Nice to meet you. Sergio, nice to meet you. Like the haircut, brother?
Thank you, brother. Thank you so much, man. Thank you so much.
This is yours.
Make sure that you're here. We
Come
don't
up
wanna
here,
hide your
Junior.
brother. Maybe you want to hide your brother. I don't know how to regards.
Thank you so much.
Get a little bit further in because, and did you want a photo?
Do you
with this
mind? That'd be wonderful. Thank you.
one? This one first. Okay. 1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3. 2, 3. 2, 3. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Chief, my pleasure.
I'm motivated just man with that.
So before we move on to the next item, I just wanted to speak to both of our recipients this evening. To Khadija, to my sister there, I am so proud of the work that you continue to do, not only on the CAPIA commission, but also the amazing work that you've done with CARE, leading the way. It's wonderful to see a South Asian woman in those positions of leadership. And you know, sister, that I will continue to speak up and support my Muslim American brothers and sisters. Thank you for being you. To Coach V, I needed that. You just have you have a gift, sir, and I am so grateful that you do live in this city. We get to proudly showcase such great talent in our city. And, you know, my question is, when are you going to run for governor? Or even president? Just, you're so dynamic. I know that the vice mayor has been spending some quality time with you, with coaching. And I look forward to sitting down with you and maybe participating with one of your infamous podcasts. But you are just such a wonderful, inspirational person. I know that it's not just what you do for a living, it's who you are at the core. And you let your light shine bright for all of us. So thank you for your authenticity. I really appreciate you so much. Anybody else want to say anything?
Yeah, well, if I, my mayor, I just want to pile on a little bit. I've had the honor and pleasure of, living next to the Tuivai family, our kids going to the same elementary school. So I was blessed to come across this man a long time ago and see all the great things that you all saw tonight. And it's just an honor to be able to present this to you on behalf of the council, and please continue what you're doing. And I remember when you started Invictus and the difference of in those kids' lives that you make each and every session. They come away so inspired. And my own kid participated in one of your football programs for the youth. And
But then he never came back to football.
yeah, that's a whole other story about my kids. But but they're so inspired. They had so much fun. All the kids had so much fun, and the parents too. So anyway, I just want to thank you so much for all that you do. You live the words that you speak. So thank you.
We good?
Coach V, I'm inspired and truly I can see that you're a man of faith. And what you spoke a lot to me. I'm excited to get to know you a little bit more. I'm excited to work together, and I'm excited to make an impact with our youth. So thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone, and congratulations to both of you again. All right, with that, we will move on to item 4.2, which is the presentation by the Sacramento-Yolo Mosquito and Vector Control District.
All right. Well, thank you. Two very passionate speeches. You're about to be let down. So my name's Gary Goodman. Thank you very much for the invitation to come out and talk a little bit about mosquito control for what we're anticipating for seeing for this upcoming season. It's definitely starting to get warm, and we're starting to see more of our mosquitoes out and about. So the goal, our facility is right here in Elk Grove off of Bond Road there. We've been there for, 30-something years now. And our goal is essentially to provide mosquito control and protect the public from vector-borne disease and also abundance of mosquitoes. And so we want people to, especially in the summertime, be able to enjoy their backyards, barbecues, out at the park, those types of things without being inundated by mosquitoes. And of course, there is the possibility of disease transmissions. Specifically, the one that we have most prevalent here in our area is West Nile virus. And so our district's goal is to respond to the public when and if there are mosquito problems. All you have to do is give us a call. We typically come out within 24 hours, if not the same day, to be able to try to take care of the problem immediately, because we understand the faster that we are, that we can respond to it, the lower the numbers that we can have for the future. So we go through what we call an integrated mosquito management approach. It is kind of 5 components: public information. We do a lot of advertising, going to fairs. We're going to be at the Sacramento County Fair this week that's upcoming. A number of public events where we have booths, give information out to the general public, hand out repellent and information. Then we have our surveillance program. This essentially is us setting traps. We set mosquito traps out throughout our district. We cover all of Sacramento and Yolo County. So we have 2,000 square miles of area to cover. And in that, we're looking for the various populations of mosquitoes. So in our area, we have about 24 different species of mosquitoes. Not every mosquito transmits disease. But we are looking for the fluctuations in the population. Are they rising? Are they falling? What species are we starting to see at this particular time? And of course, when we do collect those mosquitoes, there are the ones that can transmit disease. Then we have a lab at our facility in Elk Grove here where we test those mosquitoes, and then we react appropriately when we find positive activity. Our biological control program, if you've ever driven by our facility, you see all those ponds out there. We're not breeding mosquitoes. We're actually breeding mosquito fish. So very small gambusia fish that we plant in places like rice fields, backyard swimming pools, irrigation ditches, all of those types of areas where they will eat the mosquito larvae. Mosquitoes need water. They lay their eggs in water, particularly standing water or stagnant water that has some level of vegetation growth. And we plant these fish in there, and they will eat the mosquito larvae before they emerge as adults. Then we have our ecological management program. This is a program that we work very actively with California Department of Fish and Wildlife, Nature Conservancy, Stone Lakes National Wildlife Refuge right here in Elk Grove, Consumnes River Preserve, all of these kind of larger landowner areas that actually have water and flooding on their property that then breed mosquitoes. So we work with them to be able to try to implement what we call best management practices, so things that they can do to remove water off of their property very quickly so they're not breeding mosquitoes, and then those mosquitoes are then flying in to the neighboring communities. And so we have some heavy equipment, a backhoe and dump truck, and we offer services to be able to try to facilitate and work with those landowners so that they're not breeding mosquitoes on their own property. And then our control operations, this is essentially our staff going out on a daily basis. And so they're looking for and treating mosquito breeding sources. So they're looking for standing water area, they're looking for backyard swimming pools, they're looking for low areas or irrigation ditches, agricultural areas that might be breeding mosquitoes, and then they're treating that in the water and with larvicides so that the mosquitoes don't emerge as adults. So a number of different mosquito breeding habitats throughout our district. There's some easy things for us to see. When I talk about agricultural areas or wetlands, I can drive by that. I see water. I know that there's mosquito breeding that's happening in those areas. The bigger challenge that we have is what are in people's backyards, because they can't see behind the fence, can't see behind the house. And this is where we really need the public's help in being able to identify. Are you being bothered by mosquitoes? Are you seeing that? Do you know a neighbor who maybe isn't maintaining their pool? Please give us a call. We'll knock on the door. We'll try to get access, and we'll make sure that there isn't breeding on that property. The other thing we ask the public to do is mosquitoes can breed in just a little bit of only a tablespoon of water. We've seen mosquito breeds in just a bottle cap. So when you go around your yard once a week, just make sure you're dumping out any standing water, anything that's in your children's pools, or if you have an old tire or dog dish or something like that, just dump that water out once a week. That will help reduce mosquito production in and around your neighborhood. So last year was a very intense year for West Nile virus for us in the Sacramento and Yolo County area. We had record amount of rain in 2023. It led to a lot of breeding sources. A lot of places that were dry in previous years now had water. So our populations really ballooned. And with the amount of rain that we've had again already this year, we're anticipating another very, very busy season. So we have some long-term concerns with intense mosquito season, but also just because we had so much virus activity last year. Last year in Sacramento County, we had 55 confirmed human cases. In Yolo County, we had 45, so our district as a whole was almost at 100 human cases for the area, which is about 8 times what our normal average is. So there was a lot of virus activity last year, and we want people to be aware of that. Specifically here in Elk Grove, normally you can see the red circles are areas where we had positive mosquito samples collected here in and around Elk Grove, 22 samples. You can see a lot of that on the western side out by Stone Lakes. And the yellow triangles are dead birds that we collected. So West Nile virus is a bird disease. It's carried by birds and vectored by mosquitoes. So mosquito bites an infected bird, picks up the virus, then bites another bird and passes on, or bites a human and passes it on. So if you do see a dead bird, give us a call. We will come pick it up, we'll test it, and we'll let you know whether that bird died of West Nile virus or not. But it also is a good indicator for us to be able to try to figure out where we can put our surveillance traps to find where virus activity is happening. So again, West Nile virus activity in California, this is last year's numbers. And as you can see, the number of human cases was more than double last year of what we normally saw from the year before, or their 3-year average. So in the state of California, it was significantly higher. In our area, it was about 8 times the average of what we normally see. And so we want people to be aware that this is a significant concern and that they should be concerned, but there are very easy measures to try to protect yourself in the future. One thing I want to try to bring up specifically is the vast majority of these human cases that get reported, there are 2 types of kind of disease that happens with West Nile. One is West Nile fever, right? So people come down with flu-like symptoms, similar to COVID, so we're all readily recognize those types of symptoms, and people can recover within a week or 2 weeks, or sometimes it takes a little bit longer for people to recover from the fever. And then there's also what we call the neuroinvasive form of the disease, which is a much more serious form, which leads to paralysis, blindness, and of course even death. And so the vast majority of these human cases that are reported are the neuroinvasive form of the disease, because a lot of times the West Nile fever symptoms, people just stayed home. They never went to the doctor. You never get diagnosed. So, and especially with COVID over the last few years, we think this is significantly underreported. So CDC estimates that for every neuroinvasive form of the disease, there is anywhere from 30 to 70 other infections that happen. So you're really talking about 12 to 30,000 people last year that were afflicted from West Nile virus. And so we want people to be aware of that, be aware of the risks that are associated with it, and take very easy measures to try to reduce mosquito production on their property, and then obviously not being bitten by mosquitoes and letting us know. One other thing I want to try to highlight is that some people tend to think that West Nile fever is a minor disease. California Department of Public Health back in 2006 after the initial outbreak, because we first got West Nile virus here in California in 2004. 2005 was a big year for Sacramento County. But in 2006, California Department of Public Health did a survey of people that had experienced symptoms from West Nile virus, and over 50% of those people were still experiencing a symptom a year later. So it can be a very long-term debilitating disease as well, and we want people to be aware of that so that they can take appropriate preventative measures. We have also detected what we call invasive mosquitoes in and around a Sacramento area. So these are mosquitoes that are not typically supposed to be in our area, and we have some here in Elk Grove. Aedes aegypti, which is the yellow fever mosquito. And the problem with these particular mosquitoes is that they can transmit more exotic diseases such as dengue, Zika, chikungunya. And so these are diseases that, for the most part, we don't have here in the United States, although there have been, last year was a very large outbreak of dengue fever in Florida, Texas, and there was even local transmission of dengue down in Southern California, both Pasadena and Long Beach. And so the concern here is that if these mosquitoes get established here in our area, we have a number of travelers that come from areas where dengue is endemic. And so they travel to an endemic area, they get sick, they come back home. If they get bit by these mosquitoes, then those mosquitoes could then have local transmission of these more exotic diseases. And so the world is getting significantly smaller, and world travel is very easy to come back and forth. On an annual basis, we get about 20 to 30 imported dengue cases already of people that go to a particular area. Malaria, we get about 20 or so again. We get a number of chikungunya and a number of Zika cases of people that travel. So the risk is there as well. These particular mosquitoes like to bite people, and so they like to be around people's homes. So this is where we want the public's help. If you're seeing mosquitoes, if you're being bothered by mosquitoes, please call us. We'll come out, we'll assess, we'll try to figure out whether it's this type or our regular mosquitoes that we may have, but we just want to know so that we can react appropriately. Our goal is to be able to try to eradicate these and make sure that they don't get established in our areas. So with that, you can get more information at our website, which is fightthebite.net, or give us a call, 1-800-429-1022. Again, if you're being bothered by mosquitoes, we typically just give us a call. We typically come out that day. We have folks that are around in the area. We have folks that, we have 2 technicians actually that cover all of Elk Grove. So they're here every single day. And we want to be able to try to address the issue as quickly as possible. The other thing I want to try to bring up is repellent wipes. We buy this stuff by the pallet, and we've got tens of thousands of them. So I know as the summer starts to come through and we start to get public events where people are going to be out in the evening time, baseball games, whatever the case may be, give us a call. We'll be more than happy to either deliver it or have you come pick up repellent free of charge. We want people to use it. It's almost like sunscreen was a number of years ago. We want people to protect themselves. And so the measures of protecting yourselves is making sure you're not breeding mosquitoes on your own property, dump out any standing water, wear long sleeves or long pants if you can when you're going to be out, but I know that that's hot as we get in these warmer months, and then wear a good repellent to make sure that you're not being bitten. So with that, any questions?
Thank you. A question for our city manager. Do we get these wipes for our events? Can we make that happen for the summer, particularly 4th of July?
Yeah, we'll absolutely coordinate that.
And whatever large-scale event, take you up on that because.
Absolutely. And we're right down the street, so we're very easy.
Yeah, this just very itchy presentation, as I say. It grosses me out. Any questions or comments? Yes, Councilmember Suen.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Goodman. I enjoy your presentation every year, actually. It reminds me of, what we need to do during the summer. My question is for the dengue fever mosquitoes. I hear about the efforts like the sterile mosquitoes they put out there. Are you able to do the same thing for these?
Absolutely. We've been in consultation with a number of different entities that are working on sterile insect technique. And so the concept here is that it's a little antithetical to what we do because we're used to killing mosquitoes, right? So in this concept, you take male mosquitoes, and there's a couple different ways of sterilizing them. One is irradiation. So essentially you send them through X-ray machine, then they're sterilized. Then you release those males because males don't bite. Only female mosquitoes bite. Female mosquitoes are looking for the protein in your blood so that they can produce the eggs. Male mosquitoes just feed on nectar, sugar. and mate with the females. And so we release these males, which are no risk to the population because they don't bite. They'll then mate with the females, and then the progeny is no good because the males are sterilized. And so there's been work done in Fresno, Southern California over the past couple of years. There's 2 active programs that are ongoing now in the Florida Keys. And again, in Southern California, there's a group of mosquito control districts that are trying to take the lead on this. We've been consulting with a group out of Israel. We've also been consulting with Google. Verily is an arm of Google that is looking at mosquito production to be able to try to produce sterile males. And so we think that it's going to be a very viable opportunity, possibly this year or hopefully next year, to where we can reduce those. The mosquitoes specifically in terms of sterile insect is specifically for those dengue mosquitoes. They're trying to translate it over into the West Nile mosquitoes as well, but there's still some more work to be done on that. So yeah, we actually are working very collaboratively with a number of different groups that are taking the lead on SIT.
Great, that's great to hear. Because the dengue mosquitoes, they're the day biters too, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. They like to bite during the day.
Yeah, thank you.
Anyone else?
Just a quick one. Typically, we have Director Lynn Hawkins with you. Is not able to make it tonight?
We had our board meeting yesterday, and I think he was feeling a little under the weather. So yes, Lynn is an excellent advocate for both the city as a staple here in the city and a very active voice on our board. And so we're very thankful for that. The city appoints him to participate with us.
Great.
Okay, thanks.
All right,
And I'll probably get in trouble that he's not here now. Thanks.
No, we wish him
Write it
well. Speedy recovery. Well, thank you for your presentation. Seeing no other questions, we'll move on to our next item.
Thank
Have
you
a good
very much.
evening.
Have a good day.
All right, next up is public comment. We have 2 people signed up. We'll start off with Travis Castle, followed by Lynn Weed.
So my name is Travis Castle, and this is the Path to Humanity. This is a program that will create continuous funding without the restrictions of grants. The funding is the easy part. As you see in your paperwork, it's funded with an 8-phase system. Phase 1 simple. Businesses pick whatever cause they want to support. They get a correlating sticker, and people can buy the discount cards for $20. Discount cards help people save money shopping locally. And the discount cards will generate about $1 million a year, year 1 for the city of Elk Grove. We went over that last time, but getting the money is the easy part. The hard part is how do you manage the program? So this is on the 3rd page, but you don't have to turn to it. So this is a chart. So if we take this chart and turn it upside down, you'll see that the city is the trunk of the tree. So everything runs through the city. So we create a tree of success, a tree of change. So the program administrator works with the city, so the city's not inundated and overwhelmed with the program. And I'm willing to volunteer to take this task where you can put a nonprofit in there, and I'm willing to work with them. I'm not territorial, so I'm easy to work with. From there, we start the program. My suggestion would be to start with the discount cards. There's a sample agreement from one of the local providers in your packets. Companies like this already exist in this area, and they offer discounts, and merchants offer discounts with them, and they have customers to sell the cards to. They also have QR codes, apps that downloads the cards virtually, so you can list it on the city's website, you can list it on the newspaper, whatever. So basically, they take care of everything that's in the city money. From there, we build a tree to success. Now, what do you do with the money? That's the good news. The city has the freedom to make that choice. So we can look at this program like a toolbox. You address whatever you want to improve, subcontract the tasks to nonprofits, execute the objectives, build the branches of the tree. So we can start with poverty, identify goals, subcontract tasks to nonprofits, again, build branches to execute objectives. Then we can go to our next set of goals, such as equality. So we can have reparations program, forgivable business loans, forgivable student loans, and jobs for minorities. But you have the freedom to make adjustments. For instance, if you want a more inclusive option to reparations, you can have a minimum living wage for low-income minorities with a residency requirement to prevent fraud, stuff like that. So in summary, we can adjust, we can address issues rapidly, make immediate adjustments. The Path to Humanity creates continuous funding without grants. we can make what was once impossible routine. And I'm requesting a simple, this to be added to the agenda so I can provide a full presentation that's not rushed. And my name is Travis Castle, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, sir. I invite perhaps Ms. Reddick, if you want to connect with him and exchange information, that would be helpful. Thank you. All right, next up is Lynn Wheat.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I miss our zoo people in the audience. It's empty in the chambers tonight. I'd sure like to meet a few new people. In 2014, our city awarded NASCAR legend and hometown hero Kyle Larson with a key to our city. As you may be aware, Larson will be starting from the second row in this weekend's Indy 500, known as the greatest spectacle in motorsports. Kyle has never raced the much faster open cockpit Indy cars before and is officially classified as a rookie for this race. He has astounded the experts for his quick learn and skills he has demonstrated. But get this, about 4 million viewers from around the world and 300,000 people will be in attendance to watch the Memorial Day Classic on Sunday. Well, I think it's time for our city council to use our economic development dollars in a fiscally responsible way and spend some to have Kyle put a sticker on his car for the millions to view. The sticker can read, "Please support the Elk Grove Zoo. Call 1-800-CITY-MECCA for donations. PayPal accepted." Just think, 4 million people from around the world seeing our sticker plastered on the side of Kyle Larson's Indy car. And get this, after the 500-mile race, he is then flying off to North Carolina to race in the Coca-Cola 600-mile NASCAR race the same day. So again, let's put a zoo sticker on the side of his NASCAR race car as well. 90,000 people will be in attendance, and about another 4 million will view the race on TV. 2 races, 8 million viewers. And remember, it's about the animals. Thank you.
Thank you. That was our last speaker for public comment. So with that, I will close the public comment opportunity and move on to our next item.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the City Council. Jason Behrman, City Manager, happy to report on several items this evening. First of all, I'm pleased to share that Elk Grove Police Detective Nicole Monroe recently received the Rebecca Moore Award for her work on child assault and exploitation cases. This award is presented annually to an individual who has exemplified passion, performance, integrity, and commitment to serve. Sacramento County Deputy Attorney spoke to Detective Monroe's diligent work during some of the most complex cases. We're incredibly proud of Detective Monroe's achievement. She is only the second Elk Grove detective to ever receive this honor. So congratulations to Detective Monroe. Pools at the Elk Grove Aquatics Center will open for recreational swim beginning this Saturday, May 25th. We invite the community to come visit the Aquatic Center this summer with special events and promotions like the Summer Beach Party on June 1st. Operating hours and pricing can be found on the Cosumnes CSD's website. A couple of big business openings coming up in the next week. Pleased to announce that Nordstrom Rack is scheduled to open on May 30th. I know many people are excited about that. Doors will open at 9 a.m. Additionally, Slow and Low, which is a new barbecue place by restaurateur Michael Hargis, is scheduled to open in our historic district on Railroad Street on Saturday, June 1st. A lot of local buzz, so we're all excited to have those new additions to our business community. The city is celebrating Pride Month, and we're inviting everyone to attend a flag-raising ceremony on Monday, June 3rd at 10 a.m. in front of City Hall. Pride flag will be displayed at City Hall all through the month of June. City Council and staff will be hosting a sweet meetup event at the Old Town Plaza on Saturday, June 9th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Enjoy a complimentary sundae while supplies last, and connect with us at Sunday Fun Day to learn more about the projects, programs, and services available to the community. And finally, a reminder, the Animal Services Team Pet Food Donation Drive continues through the end of this month. Collection bins can be found at the Elk Grove Animal Shelter, Elk Grove City Hall, and at 2 different Pets to Go locations on Laguna Main Street and Elk Grove Boulevard. And this donation drive is really to help those unhoused individuals in our community and the pets that they love. And that concludes my report. I'm happy to answer any questions that the council might have.
All right, thank you for your report. Any questions, comments? Seeing none, thank you, sir. We'll move on to our next item, our consent calendar items. At this time, I will open up public comment. Nobody has signed up for public comment. I'll close the public comment opportunity and look for a motion to approve the consent calendar.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Next item, item 8.1. And that is conducting a public hearing and consider a resolution declaring results of majority protests, proceedings, and modifying the Elk Grove Tourism Marketing District.
Okay, good evening, Madam Mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor, members of the council. I'm Darrell Doan, your Economic Development Director. I am back on this item, and this is our final action if you all approve this tonight. And this is the modification of the Elk Grove Tourism Marketing District. So the recommended actions for you tonight are, of course, to conduct the public hearing, to receive information from staff, to receive public comment, if any, and then adopt a resolution modifying the Elk Grove Tourism Marketing District. So a little bit of brief history on this topic. Tourism marketing districts are authorized by state law. Districts can be formed, modified, or renewed at the request of the hotels in the district. The purpose and services of the district are delineated in what's called a management district plan. We formed a tourism marketing district in 2015. That district was originally for a 5-year term. In 2020, we renewed the district for a 7-year term, and at that time, we increased the assessment on room nights from 2% to 3%. The assessment is collected by hotels from guests. It is remitted to the city with their transit occupancy tax, and then the city remits the assessment portion to Visit Elk Grove. Visit Elk Grove is our small but mighty nonprofit corporation that we formed to administer the district for us. Visit Elk Grove uses the funds from the assessments to market Elk Grove as a visitor destination. So there are currently seven hotels within our district. They are all listed here. There are 6 in the city limits and 1 just outside the city limits. The district does expand beyond the city limits by a smidge. Incidentally, there are 2 additional hotels that have been approved by the city that have their entitlements, and in one case, a building permit, and I am hopeful that they will commence construction sometime in the next 12 months, so we may have 9 hotels soon. Visit Elk Grove. As I said, this was an organization that the city formed to administer this district for us. They work under a contract with the city. They currently have 5 board members. I do not know if any board members are here tonight. Oh, yep, James is here. James is the chairperson. James, thank you for being here. And then also we have Erin Val, who is our CEO, and Joy, her employee. And then we have Sarah Rodriguez, who is the treasurer of the board of Visit Elk Grove. So we thank them for their partnership. Visit Elk Grove has been fabulous in all the work that they do. And really help us drive tourism and visitation, which is a key component of our economic development strategy. So the modifications that are being asked of you by the hotel members are the following. They want to increase the assessment to 4% in the city and 2% in the county. Currently, the assessments are 3% in the city and 1% in the county. They want to identify a new category in their budget within the management district plan called destination development. This is to be able to look at, for example, doing a feasibility study on a conference center or something like that. It's to evaluate new facilities or amenities that would further visitation and tourism in the city. They want to extend the term to 10 years, so it would terminate on March 31st, 2030. Currently, the term is 7 years, expiring on March 31st, 2027. So it's adding 3 additional years to the life of the district, which is the maximum allowed under state law. They also want to make changes to their board composition. So the new changes would be that a majority of the board must always be assessed hotels. We will always have 1 city seat, which we've had from the beginning. But it would allow tourism-related businesses who are not the city and not a paying hotel to join the board and be voting directors, which would also allow the board to expand over time. But again, always the hotel members who are paying this assessment will have the majority control of the board. So we're very comfortable with that decision. I think it's actually excellent because heretofore the board composition has been solely hotels with some non-hotel advisor members, but they are non-voting. This will allow non-hotel entities, but entities that are involved in tourism to now be voting members. I think it diversifies the board and will result in just a more sustainable, well-rounded organization. These would be organizations like restaurants, wineries, people who run conference centers, visitor centers, places like that. And then finally, we want to update the district boundaries to include land that was annexed in a couple years ago, where Grantline Business Park is now, where Kubota is, into the tourism marketing district. So just quickly, in the comparison of the current district versus the modified district. So the current district has an annual budget of about $675,000 with the 3% and 1% assessments, and it is a 7-year district. With these changes tonight, should you approve them, the district will have a budget of about $1 million, so a good $300,000 plus more money to do things with assessments at 4% and 2% and a lifespan of 10 years. Before we agreed to bring this forward, we took a good look at how competitive we would be when you combine our transit occupancy tax of 12% with the proposed new assessment of 4%. And then there's a small 2% component on top of that that goes to county? Goes to somebody, either the county or the state. I honestly can't remember right now.
Is it California?
That's right, Visit California. Thank you, Councilman. So when you add the current TOT rate with the new assessment, we would have a total, I'm not going to call it a tax, it's a blend of a tax and an assessment, but a total charge to visitors of our hotels of 16.2%. And where that would place us is, roughly third. Rancho is the highest in the region. Sacramento's highest rate, they have zoned rates, is 16.2%, and ours would be 16.2%. So we're very comfortable. We don't like to be the highest when we do assessments and charges. We like to be regionally competitive, but we feel like this is something that the market will bear and is appropriate. So the modification process, it is a long and winding road under state law. So on March 27th, you approved a resolution of intention signaling that we were looking at doing this. That is complete. You also approved a resolution requesting the county's consent because part of our district is in the county. That is complete. The Board of Supervisors did provide their consent. We then received petitions from the hotels in order to move forward with a modification of the district. The hoteliers have to petition the city to do that, and we need petitions from 50% or more of the proposed of the payers who would pay the estimated next year's levy. And so we have that. We have petitions from 4 hotels representing approximately 55% of the proposed assessments. We had to provide notice to the hotel owners. That is done. We had to hold a public meeting, which you held on April 24th, 2024. That is done. You took no action. You weren't required to take any action. County consent is on here twice, so we did that, but only once. And then finally, there was a public hearing, and that is tonight. So in this public hearing, if you receive written protests from 50% of owners, of hotel owners, protesting this move, then no further proceedings would take place for a year. We would not adopt the resolution tonight. If there is no majority protest, the council can adopt the resolution. You also have other options. You can revise, change, reduce, or modify the proposed assessment or the types of improvements and activities that the assessment would pay for. I'm not recommending that. I'm recommending that you adopt the resolution as it is. And that concludes my presentation. I'm available to answer questions after the public hearing. Thank you.
All right, thank you for your presentation. At this time, I will declare that the public hearing is now open and open up the public comment opportunity. I do not have anyone signed up to speak. I will close the public comment opportunity and declare that the public hearing is now closed. Any questions?
Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members, I will confirm that there were no protests that were received, so there is 0% protest against the actions to modify the Elk Grove Tourism Marketing District. So.
All right, thank you for that feedback. Any questions or comments? Looking to my left.
Quick comment, Mayor. I just want to thank all the members of the Tourism Marketing District and, of course, Ms. Val and her team for their ongoing involvement in our city staff, Ms. Rodriguez, as well. I think it's really important to be able to get the word out about our city, and judging from all the attendance at various events, I think they're doing a great job. So with that, I'm happy to make the staff motion or recommendation to adopt the resolution.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other questions or comments? We're good? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Moving on, item 8.2.
That's a public hearing to consider resolution confirming the Laguna West Service Area Fiscal Year 2024-25 annual report and ordering the levy for the Laguna West Service Area for fiscal year 2024-25.
Good evening, good evening, Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. I'm Vijay Masuria, financial analyst for the city. I'm here this evening to present the Laguna West Service Area levy. Please consider adopting a resolution confirming the Laguna West Service Area annual report and ordering the levy for fiscal year 2024-25. A little background information. The Laguna West Service Area was originally established in 1992 by the County of Sacramento, where it was known as County Service Area, or CSA 5. The city of Elk Grove assumed administration in 2003 when the Laguna West area was annexed into the city and became known as the Laguna West Service Area. The service area provides miscellaneous services to the Laguna West area, such as street sweeping, road maintenance, drainage service, and administration. Here's the map of the service area. The area is approximately bounded by Laguna Boulevard and Elk Grove Boulevard, also I-5 and Franklin Boulevard. The map hasn't changed since the service area was created by the county in 1992. The Sacramento County Board of Supervisors adopted ordinance number 1418, which established the service charge, allocation formulas, and the procedure for collecting CSA 5 service charges on the property tax roll. To levy the service charges, the governing jurisdiction must confirm an annual written report detailing the individual parcels and their respective service charges. The formation documents establish the basis for annual increases. Since the levy is being assessed at the maximum rate, the levy cannot be increased. Here are the proposed service charges for fiscal year 2024 and 25. Staff recommends maintaining current service levels to provide an adequate revenue stream for projects and services to maintain sufficient reserves for future projects and to maintain consistency with the fiscal year 2024-25 budget document. Staff recommends to adopt the resolution for Laguna West Service Area for fiscal year 2024-25, which will confirm the annual report and order the levy. That concludes my presentation. Thank you for your time. I am available for any questions.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. At this time, I will declare that the public hearing is now open and open up the public comment opportunity. Nobody has signed up to speak on this. I'll close the public comment opportunity and declare the public hearing is now closed. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, look for a motion.
So moved. I'd like to make the recommendation to move the resolution.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right, item 8.3. You're back up.
And 8.3 will be two public hearings actually packed together related to the Backer Lily at Poppy Meadows project, as staff will describe.
Well, Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members, back for the second round. One more to go. The presentation for proposed annexations into city special tax districts. The city maintains 7 special tax districts and 1 utilities fee district, which provide funding for infrastructure or services such as police, maintenance, street lighting, and stormwater drainage. Annexations into the appropriate districts are typically part of a new development project approval process. The requirements are specific for each project and vary according to the geographic location and building use. The special taxes are subject to annual rate adjustments. On March 27th, 2024, the City Council adopted resolutions of intent to annex the project's parcel as shown on the screen, Backer Lily at Poppy Meadows Project, into special tax districts and to establish tonight's public hearing. The project is being proposed for annexation into the following special tax districts: CFD 2003-2 Police Services, Street Maintenance District Number 1, Zone 5, Street Maintenance. This is going to be the 74th annexation into CFD 2003-2 and the 32nd annexation into Street Maintenance District 1, Zone 5. This assessment will be levied in perpetuity. So what is the project? The project is Backer Lily at Poppy Meadows, which consists of 94 single-family homes, residential units, located southwest of Bighorn Boulevard and Whitelock Parkway. With that concludes my second presentation. I'm available for any other questions.
All right, thank you again for your presentation. At this time, I will declare the public hearing for CFD 2003-2 Annex 74 open and open up the public comment opportunity. Don't see anyone signed up to speak. I'll close the public comment opportunity and declare the public hearing for CFD 2003-2 Annex 74 is closed. And look for a motion for A1.
Motion A1 to adopt the resolution.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, may I request the results of the ballot tabulation?
Of 94 possible votes, 94 affirmative votes were cast authorizing the city of Elk Grove to levy a special tax at the rate of portion as described. The measure passes with more than 2/3 of all votes cast in the election in favor of the measure. A resolution declaring the results of the election is available for council consideration.
Thank you. Looking for motions A2 and A3. Can I do them together?
Indeed.
Okay.
So moved.
Go ahead.
All right, can I get a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
I wasn't sure who
I know.
would.
Our second public hearing, SMD 5-AC Annex 32. I will declare the public hearing for SMD 5-AC Annex 32 open and open up the public comment opportunity. I don't have anyone signed up to speak. I'll close the public comment opportunity and declare that the public hearing for SMD 5-AC Annex 32 is closed and request the results of the ballot tabulation.
There is no majority protest. Of 94 possible votes weighted according to the proportional financial obligation for the properties, 94 affirmative votes were returned. Ballot approves the proposed assessments and the proposed inflation adjustment limits described for the parcels identified in the ballot. A resolution determining the levy assessments in the district is available for council consideration.
All right, looking for a motion B.
Motion B.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right, next item, 9.1.
Back again.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. Promise you this will be the last one for tonight. I'm here to present the community facilities districts and assessment districts in the city of Elk Grove and their new rates for the fiscal year 2024-25. Please consider adopting a resolution to continue to levy these taxes and assessments for fiscal year 2024-25. A little bit about the background. The taxes and assessments that I will be presenting are not new to the city. They have all existed for several years. The city administers 7 special tax districts, providing funding for infrastructure improvements which may be bonded or not, police services, maintenance services, street maintenance, and street lighting maintenance. The funding is planned to match the service needs of each district. To maintain that alignment and to include future projects, the rates are gradually increased annually. Here are the 7 current districts in the city of Elk Grove. There are 5 community facilities districts, also known as CFDs. Some of the CFDs have both infrastructure and service components. There are also 2 assessment districts. Here's a further look. There are 3 CFDs with an infrastructure component known as East Franklin, Poppy Ridge, and Laguna Ridge. These CFDs are bonded, which means that they are supported by debt. They fund construction of new improvements and projects such as roadways, sewer, drainage, and public projects, or CIPs. Recent projects include District 56 facilities, Nature Preserve and Civic Center, Community Center, and finally the Aquatics Center, and also the Camera Road improvements. These CFDs have a sunset date per the formation documents for each. For the services districts, there are 4 CFDs that are service districts, with 2 for police services and 2 for maintenance services. CFD 2003-1, Poppy Ridge Police Services, is strictly for that district. CFD 2003-2, Police Services, is throughout the rest of the city of Elk Grove. CFD 2005-1, Laguna Ridge Maintenance Services, is that strictly for that district as well. CFD 2006-1, Maintenance Services for the rest of the city of Elk Grove. This district has 17 tax zones based on the on-site maintenance requirements for the projects. There are also 2 assessment districts that are considered service districts. Street Maintenance District Number 1. The district has 5 geographic zones throughout the city. Street Lighting Maintenance District Number 1. This district has 2 geographic zones throughout the city. The goal is to fund ongoing authorized services such as police, streets, street lights, and landscape of public parks, trails, channels, and other open spaces. These districts are not bonded and are levied in perpetuity as well. Here's a quick list of a summary of all the special tax districts we have in the city. When each district and their zones were created, formation documents were drafted and adopted as well. They provide guidance on how each district is assessed and provide guidance on the rate increases. This table shows all districts and the basis for each increase, along with percentage increases and the dollar amount increase on single-family homes. You can see those amounts on the slide above. East Franklin, Poppy Ridge facilities, and street light maintenance, District Number 1, Zone 1, do not have any annual increases per formation documents. Poppy Ridge services and CFD 2003-2 police services are increased by the lesser of the CPI, or 5%. Laguna Ridge Facilities is increased by a flat rate of 2%. Laguna Ridge Maintenance Services is increased by the CPI. CFD 2006-1 Maintenance Services is increased by the greater of the CPI or 2%. All 5 zones of the Street Maintenance District, number 1, are increased by the Construction Cost Index. Street Lighting Maintenance District number 1, Zone 2, is increased by CPI. Note, there are 2 districts that staff recommends leveling less than 100%. CFD 2005-1, Laguna Ridge Maintenance Services, which was levied at 80% of maximum rate in the current fiscal year. Staff recommends increasing that rate to 85% of maximum rate for fiscal year 2024-25. This city has added new facilities and new parks, most notably District 56 and the Nature Preserve, which only opened a few years ago. As the city continues to add facilities and more parks, the maintenance costs will increase as well. Staff recommends this be increased gradually in the coming years to mirror the growth in expenses. This fund is in a deficit in spending since the maintenance expenses are more than the tax revenues. For Street Maintenance District number 1, Zones 1, 3, and 5, they were currently levied at 92% of maximum levy in the current fiscal year. For fiscal year 2024-25, staff recommends maintaining the levy for Zones 1 and 5 at 92% of the maximum levy, as the fund balances for those zones are healthy enough to support the lower assessment. Staff recommends increasing the levy for Zone 3 to 100% of the maximum levy, as the fund balances for that zone requires additional resources to support the services. Staff recommends maintaining current service levels to provide an adequate revenue stream for projects and services to maintain sufficient reserves for future projects and to maintain stable assessment levels for residents. Staff's recommendation is to adopt a resolution to continue to levy the special taxes and assessments for the 7 special tax districts for fiscal year 2024 and 25. That concludes my presentation, and I am available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, at this time, I'll open up public comment. No one has signed up to speak. I'll close public comment and look to my colleagues here. Any questions or comments? If not, I'll look for a motion.
Move to adopt the resolution.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right, next item, item 9.2, receive a follow-up presentation in regard to the 2023 Elk Grove Aquatic Center Annual Report and provide direction as appropriate.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. I'm Lana Yoshimura, your Community Event Center Manager. I'm here this evening with Mike Dobson, the Director of Parks and Neighborhood Services for the Cosumnes Community Services District, the follow-up report to the Elk Grove Aquatic Center. We presented our annual report to you on February 14th of this year, and there were some questions regarding some of the issues that we faced and the financial issues that we've seen over the last year. Mr. Dobson and I are here to explain some of those issues this evening. This is a summary of what we're going to cover. Basically, we're going to go through a background of the Elk Grove Aquatic Center and decisions that were made by the council in 2016. Some initial assumptions made during that time, wear and tear at the facility, and what moving forward looks like. I'm going to turn it over to Mike now to cover the first part.
I just push one of these buttons.
Yeah, next.
All right. Good evening, Mayor Singh Allen, members of the City Council. I'm Mike Dobson, one of the Parks and Recreation Directors for the Cosumnes Community Services District. As Lana mentioned, I'm here tonight for the 60-day report back from the Elk Grove Aquatic Center annual report. So right now, we'll just go with a little background. From a background perspective, I was fortunate enough to be involved since the onset of this project. In 2016, the council reviewed a study prepared by the Sports Management Group. From this study, it offered a number of options in building an aquatic facility At that time, the council approved an option, which was number 4, a full-service aquatic center with a 50-meter competitive pool, diving boards, a rec pool with slides and features, and a 25-yard lap pool. There was also some minor discussion on what was option 2, which was a little more competitive in nature. So this next slide just kind of shows a snapshot of some of the options that were presented at that time. Option 1 was a mostly competitive 50-meter facility with a diving tower. Option 2, obviously mostly competitive without a diving tower. With these options, you'll also see that the sports management group listed a cost recovery range and what would be the subsidy involved with those. Option 3, a multi-use facility. They had a multi-use, which was like a dedicated competitive pool with some limited recreational use. And then option 4, which was chosen, the full-service aquatic center, had a combination of competition, recreation, instructional, and fitness. So as you can see from this, the competitive ones in nature, the comparators that they used at that time for like 1 and 2 were mostly universities and colleges, as they were just extremely competitive in that nature. You'll also notice with this that the more competitive a 50-meter pool is and the less recreational components, the lower the cost recovery or the higher the subsidy. So as we discussed, there were some initial assumptions that were made. Most of these I will be going in greater detail with in these following slides. But as we talked about, the initial 1 year was only discussed as it related to what would be the subsidy. The future years or the effective inflation at that time wasn't presented from the sports management group. They talked about the cost recovery, and that range was based on 3 facilities, which we'll discuss here in a little bit, as well as maybe some financial assumptions based on the facility and usage that weren't able to come to fruition. And then, the positive aspects of utilizing Cosumnes CSD as the subject matter expert within the field of aquatics. So as far as the initial financial assumptions, we wanted to show maybe a snapshot of what it was in 2016, as well as what it is in today's dollars. So there's been based on the U.S. Bureau of Labor and Statistics data, there's been a 31% increase based on inflation. So as you look of what was the $500,000 to $750,000 in 2016, it's now somewhere between $654,000 to $980,000. Other factors as it relates minimum wage. At that time, minimum wage was $10. Now it's $16, so a 60% increase. And then the CSD being very competitive within the job market and trying to be an employer of choice. We have a philosophy, I believe, much like the city, of paying within up to the 80th percentile. So over these last few years, our step 1 has increased for the positions that you see at the Aquatic Center of about 34%. Next, one of the major costs that have gone up that we really don't have control over is PG&E. So this is a snapshot of 2020, January of 2020, just for that month of what PG&E costs, and in 2023 and 2024 what it costs. So obviously in 2023, just 3 years later, it increased almost 3 times as much. And then this last year, it's a little over twice as much as what it was in 2020. So as I talked about earlier, the sports management group benchmarked these 3 facilities, Morgan Hill, Pleasanton, and Walnut Creek. So what we wanted to do is show a snapshot of what they benchmarked and kind of where it is now. For Morgan Hill, unfortunately, we weren't able to get that up-to-date data. They were not as forthcoming as we'd hoped in some of these. But as you'll notice, what the cost recovery was in 2015 and where it is now, how that's dropped substantially. I think it's also important to note that for Pleasanton, their cost recovery in 2015 didn't include utilities, chemicals, and some of those other costs. Another department, I believe their Department of Public Works paid that at that time. This is now factored in as a total part of what they pay. We also wanted to show the council kind of not only the two benchmarked facilities, but other local 50-meter competitive facilities that are similar in nature to the Elk Grove Aquatic Center. For the total view of a snapshot of the cost recovery for this type of facility. So we went back to a complete fiscal year of fiscal year 18-19 for both Pleasant Hill and Walnut Creek, which were the sports management groups benchmarked, and then Folsom and Roseville, just to give you an example of where their cost recoveries are then and kind of where they're at now. We also wanted to show in there the Wackford Aquatic Complex, as most all of these other facilities didn't have that type of, not quite as large, but still an established aquatics complex that they had to compete with when they benchmarked these agencies and came up with some of these projections. So as you'll see now, like, the industry standard for this is about 40 to 55%. And, the cost recovery has gone down and the subsidy obviously has increased. So, based on these 5 years of data, a lot of what we're doing is just in line with similar facilities and industry standards. I think based on the COVID programming limitations, the good news is for where we're at, we're very far ahead of many of the other people within the industry and other agencies within the industry. We are, in fact, one of the benchmarked facilities as last summer we came back with complete programming. This summer we will have complete programming as well as for future programming growth. If you Google right now, like the lifeguard shortage, it's affecting almost everywhere but here. We've done a great job as far as recruiting and removing the cost for staff to become certified as lifeguards. And that model has been copied by people throughout the state now. I think it's also important to note that the increasing cost of subsidy has risen just at every single facility within the state of California. It's not specific to us here in Elk Grove. Some of the other initial assumptions were the financial assumptions. So many of these revolved around how the facility was going to be programmed. They did their initial revenue mapping before we put in how we were going to structure both our programs as well as some of the user groups. There were also revenue estimates that were just really never able to come to fruition or really feasible. One of those would be cabanas. They had a model like it would be much like at a nice hotel where you could rent a cabana. Well, there are no cabanas at the Elk Grove Aquatic Center, so there are no rentals of cabanas. There are vending machines. There are no vending machines. Concessions revenue from user groups. And being a good partner, we wanted to collaborate with the city where we agreed for the user groups to run concessions during swim meets as a way of fundraising so they could pay bills. Let's see. There were other estimates that had things like synchronized or artistic swimming, water polo masters teams. The reality of it is, even though you have a 50-meter pool, the times that most of these user groups would want to use the pool are all the same. And many of these groups you can only have in the pool at one time. So the synchronized swimming, who uses underwater and above water activities, they can only be in the pool at that one time. There wouldn't be the ability to have them water polo and swimming all there at once. As well as they had talked about, high school, collegiate, or higher swimmer programs. The reality of colleges coming to rent a pool is the two most local colleges, UC Davis, UOP, that have swim teams and water polo teams, also currently have a pool. I can't speak for them, but I don't think their board would be very fiscally responsible if they already had a pool to travel farther to rent facilities. So, and then as well as I talked about, having an established facility like Wackford, you'll see where our revenue was then. This has dropped about $250,000 almost as we split a lot of our patrons. I think as we look at a range of cost recovery and the range of what it takes to be subsidized, a lot of that narrows down after time when you can build up a client base. The unfortunate part of it was as we were trying to build up the client base, the world shut down with the pandemic. And then is this still mine?
Nope.
Okay.
So we selected CSD as the operator for the facility in 2017, and these are some of the reasons why we did that. Consistency for the community, their recreation and parks experience. They have just become a nationally accredited parks and recreation organization, which is a very difficult task. The existing infrastructure they have, we benefit from cost efficiencies from things like their HR, their front desk staff. We don't pay for those, but we benefit from their facilities. We've had a great number of staffing changes at the Elk Grove Aquatic Center. In the time that we've opened, we've gone through 3 aquatic supervisors and 2 coordinators in that time. That is a very high turnover rate, which has resulted in some loss of momentum without somebody to advocate there. And then we pay an administrative fee, which other cities don't pay because we don't operate it. We pay an administrative fee, which covers those tasks. So looking at the community benefits to the Elk Grove Aquatic Center, some of those are consistency. We have enlarged the aquatics program in this community greatly by having another facility as Wackford and Sherry Fox and now the Elk Grove Aquatics. Our messaging and programming has definitely moved forward, and there's a growing need. As we all age, we're looking for still high cardio, low impact swimming, aqua jogging. All of those things are very much in that niche that adult fitness is moving towards. Water safety is an important part of any individual's life. It's sad that we still have drowning incidents that happen, especially in California with our lakes and rivers, and that's something that we want to see increase, and CSD is hosting a water safety program this month. And then user group availability. I will tell you that our user groups, the Piranhas and the Gators, are highly competitive teams in the regions, partly because they swim at a facility which spurs them to that level. Lastly, city economic impacts. Those are not seen in the Elk Grove Aquatics budget. They're seen in the greater general fund. I talked to Explore Elk Grove about some of the impacts the meets that we've brought have had on our greater community. The Bill Rose Classic, which we hosted in 2023, they estimate that the economic impact of that meet was $356,000. The Western Zone, which brought teams all the way from Utah and Nevada in 2022, that brought an estimated $1.3 million into our community. So let's talk about some wear and tear at our facility. This is normal for any public facility, especially an outdoor. What you're looking here is the February 4th. Our slide shade cover is somewhere else. We recently had that repaired. So we opened in 2019, as Mike said, and we closed in 2020 during COVID, which led to some elapses in warranties. So we weren't able to take advantage of some of the warranties and have paid for some of that out of pocket. Our water slide flume had a crack in it. Water slide flumes crack heat, usage. It's kind of like buying an egg at the grocery store. Once in a while, you might have one that cracks. It happens on occasion. Chemical pump replacement, this is a normal part of pool maintenance. This is running 365 days a year, 24/7. It's a bladder that basically pumps and sometimes it fails, so that is pretty normal. And as you saw from the shade sale, That is a pretty hard word to say. Wind conditions, we have a lot of environmental elements that we're facing. So we see damage to pool covers, backstroke flags, even the flags in the Veterans Grove. We replace them 4 times a year due to tattering. There is quite a lot of wind there. So what you're looking at is at the budget of this year. This is as of April 30th. So we have about 2 months left in the fiscal year. We want to be in the range of having about 20 to 25% left of our budget, and we are right spot on there. These are going to be our highest expense but highest revenue gaining months, the next 2 months as we come into summer, which opens this weekend. And I will tell you happily that our user group revenue will exceed $240,000. We're probably looking at $255,000 towards the end of this year. That it comes from user groups as well as from swim meets. Looking ahead towards next year's budget, our proposed budget does show an increase of about $160,000. A lot of these increases are not within our control. Some of those increases are full-time and part-time salaries. As the minimum wage goes up, in order to be competitive with our full-time staff, as Mike mentioned, we face compaction and we have to move our full-time staff up. CSD is also in the middle of a class and comp study, which they estimate will also increase their staffing wages. For part-time leave benefit, the state passed a law recently which allows for part-time staff to have 40 hours of leave. So we have to account for that, whether lifeguards call out, we have to replace that staff with another lifeguard. You can't just go without a staffer on the deck. So we increase the cost due to that. The other factors are utilities and pool chemicals. As you saw with the fluctuations in pool heating specifically, we're seeing a lot of changes in that. Our pool heating this year, we're probably going to go a little over $160,000, which is why we're increasing it to $200,000. Our hope is to stay within that this year by budgeting correctly. Looking at next year's budget from a perspective of 2016, if you looked at it in 2016 dollars, that amount of money would come to $751,000. So we're not too far off the initial subsidy when you reduce it by inflation. So when we're looking ahead towards different programs, we're not far off the dollar amount, and we are doing lots of innovative and fun things to try to increase revenue at the facility. So looking forward, we have a baseline of operations. Usually when you look at a facility, your first year, you're trying to get acquainted to the facility, you make changes to it the second year, your third year is your baseline year. We weren't given that opportunity due to the pandemic, so now we finally have a full year of operations to start to establish those baselines and the historical growth that we're gonna see. We also put together a maintenance plan with CSD that's in place, and we monitor that quite regularly and meet and talk about that monthly. Our full programming has returned, and we're looking to increase programming. And our programs are successful. Water fitness is one of our highest generating revenue sources, has surprised all of us in terms of the amount of people that participate in it. And like I mentioned, we are trying to innovate ways to generate revenue. Concessions operated today as part of Big Truck Day to try to get some of that revenue through. Mr. Berriman mentioned our summer beach party on June 1st, so I hope you will come check that out. It is a night swim, and then we're also offering on June 22nd a dive-in movie. So these are things that we're trying to do to get people through the gates. Our marketing plan has increased substantially, so hopefully you will see that. If you go to movie theaters this summer, we have ads running at 2 different theaters in town to try to put people seeking relief from the heat at movies to come to our facility. And we have increased communication between the city and CSD for accountability and coordination. We meet monthly on fiscal matters. I meet monthly with the supervisor at the Aquatics Center to make sure that our communication is always on par. And we are always evaluating our facility to see where we are in terms of user groups, in terms of programming, and trying to find that balance. That is a very hard balance because if you ask swim teams, they want to hold more meets, they want to hold more practices. If you ask the public, they want to see more public programming, so we are constantly trying to have that in balance. And so that is something we continue to do, and the direct revenue that comes from the facility, as well as the general fund impacts in general. That is all I have for you this evening. If you have questions for Mr. Dobson and myself, we're happy to take them.
All right, thank you for that very thorough presentation. At this time, I will open up public comment. Nobody has signed up to speak. I'll close the public comment opportunity. And I'll, council comments or questions. I'll start to the right. Councilmember Spies.
I'll give it a start. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I appreciate it. All right. So first of all, let me start off with thank you. I can barely see you over the screen back there, but CSD General Manager Phil Lewis. Phil Lewis at the back of the room. Thank you for being here today. I appreciate it. And Mr. Dobson and Ms. Yoshimura, specifically first, Mr. Dobson, I appreciate our partnership, and I appreciate the work and everything that you've gone in that you've done together with us in the city. I did have an opportunity for a briefing prior, and so I got to do some digging in more of the questions. But first and foremost, thank you very much. I appreciate you taking an even deeper look, because I think it's important, and I think it's something that we owe our residents, right? So let me first start with 2015 to 2024. Extremely different worlds. I think most of us can accept that and understand that. So where did I want to be on this next? First, the apology is that I originally remembered the subsidy way back in 2015 was to be lower. And fortunately, our city manager, Jason Berman, helped me recognize the errors in my ways, because the number that I remembered made a much deeper thing. So thank you for clarifying my feeble memory. I appreciate that. Some of the questions I had, or not necessarily questions, is when we have consultants doing work for us. Now, let me back up a little bit. I do consulting myself in the real world, so I understand that, and I'm not casting aspersions on anybody. But I will say that, again, it's easy to sit here today, look back 8 years and go, oh, that wasn't maybe the best assumption or the best input. And so, I guess the message in this is what we need to do, at least in part, is make sure that we are deeply questioning the assumptions that are provided to us by consultants, simply because, they're again, I'm a consultant. Consultants of the world, don't get mad at me, but you're expected to give a snapshot of the future, but then you're not there to see what's happened, right? And sometimes, again, some of those assumptions are wrong. So I guess my lesson to all of us is, let's please challenge the assumptions of expert consultants, because things can go sideways with time. And then what else? I appreciate particularly the reset, right, on these assumptions, right? Because again, this was 8 years ago, 9 years ago when we first established these assumptions. And so if you look today at the issue, or if you look at today's issue with a 2015 lens, it's not great, right? But the things have changed. COVID happened, inflation happened. And so, all that said, I appreciate the reset. I think the one question that I do have is, in the budget that we're going to talk about tonight, the general fund contribution will be, I think it was 981,000. Was that the number?
So what will be the subsidy is 994,366.
994. Okay. I'm not going to say it's the same thing, but it's the same neighborhood. Okay. Perfect. 994. Okay. With that, thank you. I appreciate you bringing this back, and I appreciate the partnerships with CSD. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Robles.
Not so much questions, but thank you for taking the time to explain everything that's occurring, everything that has occurred, especially from when the project was first initially started until where we're at now and why we're there. Thank you to CSD for being here. A lot has changed. So I think that's something that people should note, that a lot has changed, especially with the prices and increasing. Thank you for the willingness to be involved in the community. It's got to be hard to balance swim meets and then having an opportunity for the community residents to also enjoy the pool. But Just super appreciative of you presenting today, so thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Suen.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, piggybacking off Councilmember Spee's comment, my memory was the other way. I always thought there was about $1 million subsidy since 2016, something we were concerned about, and my recollection was that's why we chose to forego the high dive, because there was such little utilization for it, and I don't remember about the multi-purpose, but the high dive was particularly stood out. And Mr. Shimura and Mr. Dobson, thank you both again also for your leadership since the beginning and throughout the years to get us to this point. Again, with my memory, you guys are right on track. So about $1 million in the subsidy. So a couple of things. First of all, a question about the utilization. You mentioned about cost recoveries for cabanas and things like that really aren't, available to us. But particularly the swim, because I know you're all, like you said, you're balancing the community social part versus the meets. Do you, because there's only 50% utilization, do you believe there is more juice to squeeze out of that one, for lack of a better term?
I don't want to say yes or no. I think both parties involved do a really good job in maximizing both of the pool space, because it's not only I guess the puzzle of the user groups and what we're trying to provide to the community. We're also trying to stagger times of the programs that we provide from the Wackford Community Aquatic Complex and here, so that the community that can't take it one way at one location or the other still has the ability to make utilization of pools during the summer. So I guess that's another factor in there that probably makes the programming even harder. So I mean, I will say that I think, Lana and her team and my staff probably do a really good job as to giving everybody as much as we possibly can at this time.
Yeah, I appreciate your challenge and the complexity. So that's my question. So there's not much more you can do, it sounds like.
Well, one of the things on consent this evening was to increase the school district's fees to utilize the pool. We've talked to our two other user groups about that as well. Both of them are aware of the financial challenges of operating the facility. And I will give credit to Anthony, who is the aquatic supervisor at the Aquatic Center. He has come up with ways that he has been able to figure out how programming will work with user groups. So, we were able to give 2 lanes back to the user groups, which they are paying for, and he will implement I need the lane for 15 minutes to do turns or dives. And they allow that, but they still continue use. But in that way, we've given some time back to the user groups who are paying for that time. We still haven't affected programming, but that's something that a dedicated, consistent aquatic supervisor is able to do at the facility. So I give full credit to him and his team for starting to think through some of these programs now that he's been there about a year and able to see the flow. We're starting to look to how can we change this to make this work better? How can we change this to operate this? And so he has a lot of ideas, which I certainly appreciate the relationship working with him to do that. And I think that we're going to see bigger and better things as we move on. One of the things they also did this year was to put flyers in schools. That's not something we've done prior, and what we want to do is try to increase that marketing effort and try to get those, that middle school crowd is who I think is our niche market into the facility once they know that's there, and to hopefully come back and return and put those dollars in our coffers.
Yeah, so along those lines, when it's open to the community, how much utilization are you getting at that point?
I mean, our average rec swim during a weekday, we still have room to grow there, and it's a matter of getting people through. This is our opening weekend. And I'm going to tell you there are a couple of challenges to that. One is not only the marketing side, but it's weather. So when you have 78 to 80 degrees, people don't seek relief from the heat, right? They're not always looking for some place to cool off. But when you're hitting in that 85 to like 90, people start to move towards the pools. Once you go over like 90 something to 100, people stay in their houses, right? So you need to hit that really clearly as to where you need that niche to be. And Kevin said he controls the weather, so he's going to help us with that. But we want that niche to be there so people will come to the facility. We still hear from people that don't know that D56 exists. And the more events that we hold there, like Big Truck Day, Multicultural Festival, Illumination, it brings people to the facility and they're like, hey, this is a cool place to hang out.
Right.
I had teachers from the Elk Grove School District there this evening. They were like, I didn't even know this was here. So, we benefit from people coming into our facility, utilizing it for other uses, and then we make sure that we have these types of flyers, pool parties available so people know that we not only program a venue rental, but there's also the aquatic side of it. So we are doing a lot more outreach, Councilmember, to answer your question. I do think there's room for growth.
Yeah.
But Elk Grove is a lot of things to do.
Yeah, no, it's true. Yeah.
So, and if we can work on the weather, that would be great. And we're continuing to push.
Thank you for that. And, when we come to direction, I guess, I think just to touch on it, you mentioned that the 95-degree weather, I mean, maybe there could be shade structures or spray misters or something that'll might make it more comfortable for people to come out, maybe exploring those types of things to get people out during that weather event. And it sounds like you are already in talks about how to optimize the other usage of the pool. So that's great. The other question I had was in regards to the heating, because I noticed the cost of heating all the time, and we're dealing with PG&E. Have you analyzed maybe doing hooking it up to solar, and whether that would be beneficial, benefit cost?
Yeah, so I can tell you firsthand. So when we first opened up Wackford, we had solar heating, and it wasn't enough for what we have. In my estimation, in what I do is much like Kevin. I do some consulting in aquatics. You would need so many solar panels. You don't have enough roof space in order to see a cost dent in the PG&E for solar panels for a pool that size.
Okay.
So.
All right. So there's no savings there, apparently.
Yeah, it wouldn't be necessarily feasible.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
Okay, yeah. That's good to know. I mean, and I know that the challenge too is you showed the structure being torn down, and there's a delicate balance, because the more people we do get in there, the faster that stuff's gonna break down. So, all right, and then. Yeah, finally, just a quick comment. I personally love seeing those big obstacle courses on the pool. I haven't tried it yet, but I look forward to it. Maybe we could do a little council competition. It looks like a lot of
Challenge
fun.
accepted.
All right, so from the marina over there. But yeah, and then the movie night I think is a great idea too. So all right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Just want to thank Lana and Mike for this report and for giving the update. There's obviously there are a lot of challenges and doing the day-to-day programming for the Aquatic Center. But it looks like that we're doing the best that we can. There's always room for growth, and I'm glad that there's a recognition of that, because having something of this magnitude and still trying to get people to the site is something that we always want to continue to strive for. And so I really appreciate the willingness to come back and provide these answers and these numbers, because I think that gives us a good look of what we are all facing as we move into this next fiscal year, and looking for ways to try and save costs wherever we can, especially when we look at electricity and gas, because that's not easy. I mean, especially as programming goes, we can do our part to have an assessment come out and be done, and PG&E and SMUD, they can do something at no cost. But if it's feasible or if it's not feasible, that's something that we at least need to know, so to speak, because I think it helps us in the long run figure out how we can be more effective and efficient without having to pay more for electric and gas, and having that become the bane of our existence. And so I definitely appreciate this information. I want to thank you guys for it.
All right, thank you for an excellent presentation. Great comments from my colleagues, particularly appreciated Councilmember Spees, your comments on some of those assumptions. And I think one of the biggest assumptions is no one could have predicted COVID. And that was a game changer for the world, not just us. So it wasn't just weeks or months. This was over a year. And so that I think sets the tone for a lot of this. But you've done excellent work. When it comes to outreach and marketing, I may suggest is also reaching out to SAC-RT for the Kids Ride Free program, of getting more awareness and ease of transportation to come and enjoy some of these amenities. So I think that might be an additional outlet, but I think you're on the right path with the school district. But school's going to be out, but for the year-round schools and some of those, that information is still important. And those newsletters still, even though, with recess or summer vacation, that information is still going out. So I think that since that's a targeted audience, I think that you're onto something there. And I would just add that additional layer of SAC-RT, perhaps, Kids Ride Free. So come and enjoy these amenities. So it's could be something maybe to increase traffic there as well. But again, thank you. I appreciate also the balance between the user groups and then private use. That's a challenge, and every now and then I'll get an email about that. But it's more infrequent than frequent, so it must be working. But I'm sure we'll get something over this summer, since that's when really it comes to fruition. But I think it's a challenging job. It's not you can't appease everyone, but I think you've struck a right balance for the most part. And if it weren't, I think you would see people coming here, and we would certainly see an influx of emails and so forth. So, but having that watchful eye on that and making sure that that balance stays is important. So other than that, I think you're on the right track. There's a lot of work that's gone in here, and it was very honest and very transparent. So thank you for that. And this is not for direction, so just excellent report. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next item, 9.3.
And that's to receive an overview report of the proposed 2024-2029 capital improvement program.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council. I'm Christina Castro, the Capital Programs Division Manager, here to present the 2024-2029 Capital Improvement Program. The 5-year CIP reflects the city's capital project priorities and establishes the existing and upcoming design and construction activities for the Public Works Department. The first year of the 5-year program is incorporated into the city's annual budget, which will follow this presentation. The following 4 years are a forecast and may be modified in future CIPs as projects develop. The draft before you tonight includes a total of 84 projects, 61 projects that exceed the $250,000 threshold, which constitutes it as a capital project, and 23 minor projects and studies. The CIP is broken up into 5 different programs: alternative transportation, community enhancement, drainage, facilities, and transportation. The CIP has a total, or for the 5-year CIP, has a total value of $233 million in project costs from 42 different funding codes. Unfunded is typically a placeholder in some of our projects to identify future grant funding opportunities. This chart breaks down the funding to each program with both funded and unfunded allocations. These numbers do not include the minor projects and studies. Majority of our funding and expenditures are focused on transportation, which includes alternative transportation, as this has been a focus for not only the city, but nationwide with potential funding opportunities. The above list is of projects planned for construction this next fiscal year. Highlighted are some of the city's top priority projects, including the Southeast Industrial Area storm drain improvements, the new library, the citywide traffic signal enhancement and congestion relief project, and our annual pavement maintenance project. I'll go into these a little more in the next slides. The Laguna Creek Trail, West Stockton Boulevard Multimodal Improvement Project, and Elk Grove Trail Gap Closure Project have been combined and construction bids have been received. The project is expected to be awarded next month. 3 of the city's existing stormwater pump stations located on the west side of town require some upgrades to improve safety, reliability, and extend the useful life of the facilities. CAP and O&M will begin designing the improvements over the next year. The Southeast Industrial Area Storm Drain Improvement Project completed the construction of Phase 1, and we are currently in construction of the second phase, which will construct 1,300 feet of a 60-inch storm drain pipe along the Waterman Road extension that ultimately outfalls into Dry Creek. Construction of the tenant improvements in this building, 8380 Laguna Palms Way, began last fall and is nearing completion. The next phase of construction will begin next door at 8400, the police facility, and will continue until spring of 2025. 9260 Elk Grove Boulevard is the location of the old Rite Aid building that will be converted into the new library. The design is nearly complete, and we expect to award the construction contract this fall. Really looking forward to seeing those teen centers and children's centers filling up after school. The citywide traffic signal enhancement and congestion relief project with nearly $11 million in grant funds is on tonight's agenda. That was approved for awarding the construction contract. This project will provide signal enhancement at 103 intersections and congestion relief on Elk Grove Boulevard and throughout the city. Construction will continue through the end of 2025. The city continues to lead the county and the state in pavement maintenance by investing over $11 million annually. Our current pavement condition index rating is 80 out of 100, where a score of 70 and above is considered excellent. This year's pavement rehab project focused on addressing some major concerns from the public. Grant Line Road is a shared facility with the County of Sacramento, and after resurfacing the city-owned portion, it became a priority for the county to address their section as well. Our O&M division is finalizing the funding agreement with the county and will be including this section in their next pavement maintenance project later this year. Another addition to the WPR project was Lusada Drive near Miwok Elementary School, where we will be extending the roadway and adding the sidewalk improvements ahead of the future Reardon Park construction to provide a safe path of travel for the students this summer. This project will also perform pavement rehabilitation through the intersection of Laguna Boulevard from the Caltrans southbound off-ramp through the intersection of West Stockton Laguna Springs Drive. Additional dig-out repairs of base failures are currently being identified along Laguna Boulevard to the west towards Bruceville Road. Next year's project will do a full resurface of Laguna Boulevard from West Stockton Boulevard to Bruceville Road, including curb ramp upgrades for the ones out of compliance. The next few slides are just a few of the priority projects moving through the design process next year. CCSD will be scheduling the public outreach events this summer for the 2 parks that were funded last year. The first is Sungrove Park, a 1-acre park within Laguna Ridge. Excuse me. Located at the top left from south of Whitelock Parkway. Sorry. Oh. The second is a 9-acre park. Sorry, getting over something. Located in the southeast policy area and identified as the Neighborhood Park K, or Mendez Park at the bottom of the screen, just west of the future Bighorn Boulevard extension. Madera East has been added this year and will begin the planning process later this year as capacity allows. Oh. The Laguna Creek Trail crossing at State Route 99 will construct a Class 1 pedestrian overcrossing facility and connect to an existing trail along West Stockton Boulevard. Another project, WDR 18, oh, thank you. Laguna Creek Multifunctional Corridor Project will construct the trail on the east that will connect the Camden Lake area ahead of the overcrossing. The overcrossing project is actively in the design and environmental phase and has over $10.5 million in grant funding. Staff will be returning to the next council meeting on June 12th to present potential aesthetic options for the new pedestrian bridge over Highway 99. Sorry. And receive general direction from council to ultimately submit to Caltrans for approval. So many projects. The Camera Road 2-lane extension from I-5 to Bruceville Road is in the final design and right-of-way phase to be ready for construction in fiscal year 27. The city recently applied for the Multimodal Project Discretionary Grant, which contains the National Infrastructure Project Assistance Grant Program, MEGA, the National Significant Multimodal Freight and Highway Projects Grant Program, INFRA, and the Rural Surface Transportation Grant Program, RURAL. The city is also moving forward with the environmental phase of the Grant Line Road and Wilton Road intersection improvement project to assess both the environmental and community impacts of the roundabouts as proposed in the Grant Line Road Precise Roadway Plan Study. Another item that we will return to council in the next few months will be the Trail and Wayfinding Signage Program. This document will provide guidance and direction. I'm just dying, I'm sorry. For both city and developer installation throughout our trail network. Okay, so for the new projects being added to the CIP this year are listed above and include a variety of new construction, potential grant-funded projects, and maintenance projects. I want to highlight WTL 42, Laguna Creek Trail undercrossing at Waterman Road. This was a project that was identified in the Trails Committee presentation last meeting, and one that Kaylee Lyons, our senior transportation planner, has submitted for a grant application. Our goal is to advance this project through the planning phase and continue to pursue grant funding for this next segment of Laguna Creek Interregional Trail. Almost there, I promise. Okay. 2 minor projects have been added to the CIP that began last year with early conceptual designs. The first is the City Entry Identification Project. The city's graphic and multimedia staff provided some revised renderings to consider when this project is brought back to council for direction. And the second, last, and most important is this Ty Lenahan Public Safety Center monument that will be replacing the existing sign at this campus in the upcoming year. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Don't ask her any questions. You did an incredible job. I'm sorry you had to endure that. At this time, I will open up public comment opportunity. Nobody has signed up, so I'll close the public comment opportunity and open it up for council comments, questions. I'll start to the left this time.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. First, I just want to thank you for being a trooper to getting through that. You did great, like the mayor said.
I work all year.
Quick question. I didn't get a chance to talk to staff about this before the meeting, but as far as future capital projects, any more conversations about levy raise on the west side for tuna deer flood protection?
Do you want to take that?
I can take it, sure. Yeah, so we haven't had many further conversations. We continue to see grant funding opportunities that may come our way. We're in the process of updating our storm drain master plan, so that's going to give us some new information that we'll consider in looking at the need for that, the real need for that. We've got some new information coming along with the camera project as well. The project team we have on that project has identified some potential changes in the floodplain area, including the recertification of the Sacramento River levies, and so that will dramatically change some things. So right now we're kind of holding pattern. If something comes our way, we'll certainly pursue it, but there hasn't been much activity, I would say, at this point.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Vice Mayor?
I want to thank Christina for her presentation. I was looking at all the priorities that are on here and how everything is coming together. Has there been any updates or discussions on the White Lock interchange and where that's at in the process?
Yes, that project kicked off last year for the environmental phase, and that will continue for several more years as it involves Caltrans through the process.
Yeah, that was the only one I had a question on, because I know as we're continuing to develop our infrastructure and connecting both east and west together, is like that was the key project. I thought that is coming down the pipeline to be aware of or to be on the lookout for.
Absolutely.
I definitely like the development for the Laguna Creek pedestrian bridge and the Waterman Laguna Creek tunnel. Those are really good developments. Very, very happy to see those come along.
Councilmember Spies?
Sure. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Ms. Castro. I appreciate it. I hopefully these questions won't be long. I don't intend them to be, but I want to thank you very much for the update on the entry signs and of course the trails. I think those are going to be really good amenities that residents can be happy and proud of. I know you're looking at this at the 30,000-foot level. I'm curious. I think it was the last meeting, or maybe the city council meeting before, the Trails Committee had brought together a list of some wonky trail connections, and so I was just curious on how we intend to integrate that. I know this is an update on.
They're not
where we
wonky.
have-
I mean,
some of them
they're definitely a challenge.
Yeah.
We are actually meeting with UPRR next week. I'm sorry, in 2 weeks, for our existing trail, maintaining easements, providing access and setting up agreements for ongoing maintenance of our existing trails. In that process and looking at other crossings, they have very restrictive guidelines on when you can install a new at-grade crossing. Unfortunately, with one of our rails, it goes at an angle to a lot of our major roadways. And so it does take a very creative engineering to make it an at-grade that would be allowed and approved by the UPRR. They are in our master plan, their bike trail, pedestrian trail master plan. And so as we continue down, working through some of their other priorities, this is a plan for Kaylee and I to continue to pursue and find creative solutions and get grant funding to make more of those connections. But they are really large projects, and we're taking them one at a time.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Councilmember Robles?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Ms. Castro, I just want to say thank you for the update on this. This is, as a city that's continuing to grow, we're doing a lot of amazing things, especially for the infrastructure and especially for capital improvements. I'm super excited about the Carmen Road Extension project. That's going to change just a lot of our trajectory as a city and everything that we're trying to build out there. I often think when taking Consumnes to 5, it's Consumnes or Calvi? It's Consumnes. Right. But taking that down to 5, I remember when that was first built, and now I was like, oh, this is cool. I get to the freeway faster. And I was actually just talking to my nephew yesterday as we were coming back from Sac Republic game. I was like, it's going to be cool to see this in Hood Franklin side. that we don't have to get off Elk Grove Boulevard. It can go another exit and then come our way. So I'm super excited about that, excited about the trails. Thank you for bringing that update, especially the White Lock interchange. I know that's going to take a while as residents are looking at how to alleviate traffic and everything. Thank you for that update. And thank you just for talking about traffic. I think that's the top of the mind for everyone right now in our city and constituents. That's one thing that we keep on hearing. Elk Grove is growing. There's so much traffic. Stop growing, which is kind of hard to do. But Public Works and everyone is working hard for this. And, people might not see it. It's kind of like the subjects, it's just tabled subjects that you don't, until it bothers you when you're in the traffic, then you start talking about it. But they don't see the work that you're doing. So thank you for the hard work that you're doing. Thank you for delivering for our citizens, and let's continue doing this together. So,
all right, thank you for. Oh, did you want to say something?
Oh, no, appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for that excellent report. I'm excited about many things, but definitely when it comes to quality of life issues, the Traffic Signal Enhancement Congestion Relief Project, very long name. But traffic congestion, as we continue to add wonderful services and amenities, we've got the Nordstrom Rack opening here soon, and we've got other great things taking place throughout the city. Traffic. So having that addressed, I know will go a long way. And then, of course, the Southeast Connector from Camera to I-5, some good news to report, at least for right now, and that is Congresswoman Matsui has submitted for appropriations $10 million towards funding this. So that's, fingers crossed that we get this to the finish line. But there is definitely progress because that is, and I know that we've also submitted a grant as well. And that, again, not only with the good work that you're doing in your department, but also I want to thank and do a shout out to the Wilton Rancheria and Chair Jesus Durango, who also played an instrumental role in those advocacy efforts at the federal level. So I wanted to recognize him and his great work as well. Very excited about the library, the city entry and monuments. I think that's just, is going to go towards that pride in our city that we all feel, and letting people know, welcome to Elk Grove. So great. And then, of course, honoring Ty Lanahan's memory is really important to the fabric of our city, who we are, and so I'm looking forward to seeing that as well. A lot of great work taking place, and this is one of my favorite updates. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next up is item 9.4.
It's the presentation of the proposed fiscal year 2024-25 annual budget.
All right, Jason's getting me all hooked up there, right?
Working on it.
All right. Good evening again. Jason Berman, City Manager. My pleasure to be able to at least introduce the budget. This will be a high-level presentation about some of the highlights of the budget document. We'll be back in a couple of weeks. We'll provide more details on the document and give you all an opportunity to either adopt the budget, provide additional direction, and come back. We'll have to have the budget document adopted before the end of the fiscal year. Just want to first give a big shout out to all the people in the city that work on this document. It's 322 pages. I'm sure you've read the whole thing. Even though I've only given you a few days to look at it, you've got a couple more weeks before we get back here for adoption. But there's obviously a lot of work that goes into the preparation of that document, throughout the year. And so, big shout out to our budget manager Nathan Bagwell, our finance director Matt Paulin, Cecilia Long, Matt Ruiz, our budget analysts, and then all the other analysts and administrative assistants and department heads and everybody that works on this document and the programs throughout the year. So a lot of hard work that goes in. So my pleasure to be able to, again, kind of do a high-level overview about some of the key items that you'll find in the budget. Happy to answer any questions at the end, and then get any feedback or direction. When we bring back the document for you in June, ready for adoption, that'll be kind of the final opportunity to make any final changes or corrections. But certainly if you have comments or updates or things you'd like us to amend or change in that document tonight, we'd love to receive that input from you. So the budget document is, the total budget is $373 million, which is a $24 million increase over the current year. That's largely resulting from some capital project carryover money as well as Measure E growth. The general fund component of that, which does not include Measure E, even though Measure E technically is a general fund revenue source, we account for it separately. But the general fund non-Measure E component is $92.4 million, and that's a $3.4 million increase over the current year. The major cost drivers of that increase are, we have 4 new positions. I'll go into those positions in more detail in a couple of minutes, as well as some other positions that were added this year that then will have a full year next year. There's general salary and benefit increases for our employees, some new operational programs and services, as well as just cost of living adjustments and CPI increases, inflationary adjustments, and there's some one-time equipment purchases. So that's kind of the high-level increases. It's a great news budget. So we continue the budget is balanced, fully funding all of our reserves. As you'll see when I get into the other slides, our revenues exceed our expenditures. So not only is it balanced, but there's a surplus, and there's a surplus projected every year over the next 5 years. So we'll get into that in a second. You can see here $22.3 million in our reserve for economic uncertainty, a $4.4 million opportunity reserve, and then additional contributions into our economic development reserve and our capital reserve in accordance with the city's reserve policy. Anytime we have surplus above those two, those get divided 50-50 into economic reserve and our capital reserve. So just some overview, continues to maintain and enhance the level of service to our community. Continued focus on public safety, roadways, traffic, affordable housing, homelessness, economic development. Establishes a sustainable, structurally balanced budget throughout the 5-year forecast. Provides funding for council priority projects, and continues to increase our reserves over the 5-year period. So this snapshot of our revenues, $104 million approximately in revenues projected in the next fiscal year. Largest revenue source is our sales tax, has been that way for many years, property tax, and the property tax in lieu behind that. And then our other taxes and fees, that's things like our TOT tax, which is from our hotels, our utility user taxes, some franchise fees, and other things that are in there. We also have in the other category, these are transfers in from some of our other CFD and Melrose fees. And then we have a cost allocation plan that transfers funds from some of our other funds where the general fund provides services. So those revenues come into the general fund. So where does the money go? So $92.4 million expenditure plan. You saw our revenues of 104 and our expenditures of 92. So we're spending certainly within our means, allows us to continue to fund those priority projects of the city council. The vast majority of that, as you see here, is in compensation. We also have the other minor capital operating. As you get into when we talk about the other funding sources, this changes significantly because we start to use, but general fund largely is the police department, right? And so a lot of the police department expenditures are in personnel. So that's why you see that large slice there. And there it is. 70% of our general fund budget goes to our police department, right? This is consistent. It's been that way for many years. We continue to prioritize and emphasize the importance of public safety in our community. We continue to hear that from the city council, as well as our community has continued to invest in public safety. And you can see the budget document is largely a policy document. This is where the city council says are our priorities. So when you look at the document, you should say, this budget document should reflect our priorities. And if your priorities is police and public safety, it absolutely does. And so that's what you see here from our general fund. Again, these are just our discretionary revenues with kind of the no strings attached. And then you can see how it's divided. Governance, that's city manager, city clerk, city attorney's office, administration, it's like HR and finance and things like that. And then some smaller amounts with those other ones. A lot of our other departments like public works and development services are not funded directly out of the general fund. They're funded through separate funding sources, either from development fees or from other funding sources that are dedicated for specific purposes in those funds, whether it's drainage, transportation, traffic, et cetera. So now when you look at the whole budget, the $323 million, where does that money come from? So this is, again, expanding beyond just the general fund. You can see how it all, now sales tax drops to 12% of the total, where it was 36% before, right? Measure E starts to show up here. And then you can see all these other ones, developer impact fees, grants. We're pretty aggressive in getting grants. 18% of that whole $323 million is from grants, and then our CFDs, et cetera. So pretty balanced pie chart there. So where does this money go when it comes to categories? Again, this is the big dollars. This is $373 million. So capital projects, that's the biggest chunk there, 44%. Operating, 27%. Compensation now is only 24%, right? That drops significantly when you look at the whole thing and not just the general fund. And again, and the debt service one is 5%. That's fortunately the smallest piece of the pie there. We've been pretty fiscally conservative over the years, and we have very little debt for the size of our budget. So this, again, starts to show up the other departments, Public Works, Development Services, and Police. Now, when you look at all of the funding, it's 17%, right? And you say, well, that's not a lot. But again, most of these other funding sources can't be used for police. These are non-discretionary funds. They have to be used for other purposes. So when you look at the general fund, those are things that we control. We can spend how we choose to spend. These other ones are restricted to various funding sources and requirements. So this is the 5-year forecast. You can see the revenues are expected to continue to increase. We're always conservative in our revenue forecasting, and we've typically exceeded the revenue forecast significantly each year. But you can see we have a modest growth, and that we also have a modest growth in our expenditures over that same period of time. But you can see there's still a gap. There's more in revenues than we have in expenditures, and that's maintained throughout the 5 years. And so we expect our reserves to continue to grow over that period of time. There, of course, are risks, and we don't have built into here any kind of significant recession. That's certainly possible, right? The economy is cyclical, and there's ups and downs, and so that's certainly possible. The good thing is we do have very healthy reserves, which allows us to make adjustments. So if something were to happen during the middle of the fiscal year, we need to make adjustments, we can always come back to you, right? We dealt with COVID when revenues fell completely, through the bottom of the floor, and we had to make adjustments and changes, and we were able to do that pretty, I think, effectively and quickly. So we're able to address and adjust to those things that might come up. Certainly there are some headwinds or risks out there with costs and inflation and things that are going on. Who knows what the Fed's going to do this year with their rates. But again, we do have flexibility built in to the budget that'll allow us to, I think, adapt if needed. Just a few things on Measure E. We've talked about this in the past. This is the 1 cent sales tax that was implemented or approved by voters in November of 22. This is the general allocation of how those monies are determined, 20% that we've set aside for future priority projects. The other 30% goes to the CSD. The remaining 50% stays with the city of Elk Grove I'll get to the slide in a second, of those priority projects that have been identified by the council and by the community through various community workshops, polling, and other things that we've done. We did take the new Measure E expenditure plan for this next fiscal year to our oversight committee in earlier this month, and they approved and recommended that the city council also approve and adopt the 2025 Measure E expenditure plan. These are the priority areas, again, that have been identified previously: reducing crime, addressing homelessness, improving 911 services, enhancing programs to combat youth crime, maintaining streets and parks, cleaning and safe public areas, and economic development. Here's how that breaks down. So the revenue estimate for next fiscal year is about $30 million, which again is significantly more than what we originally projected. Originally, it was about $22.5 million. When we went back to you at mid-year budget, we increased it to $28 million. And now a few months later, that was back in February. Now we're seeing even a small increase over that. So we're up updating that to about 30 million next year is what our consultants are telling us to expect. And this is generally how it's divided, all the different services and priority areas that you see. This is the amount that is directly controlled by the city. So this excludes the CSD amount. So you can see homelessness, reducing crime, economic development, clean and safe areas, traffic, maintaining streets, and the youth and gang crime prevention. That's how it's allocated out. And the budget itself goes into all the details, all the programs and services and everything. But generally speaking, I'll get into a few specific things in a couple of slides, but I want to touch briefly on some of the new positions that are in the budget, both Measure E and non-Measure E. So there's 4 new Measure E positions in the police department. We'll get into those specific ones in a second. We have 1 new position in public works. That's a conversion from a contract position to a city position. We have 6 in our development services department. Those are the development services engineering positions that we talked about a month ago. So those are in there. We also have 4 in the general fund, 2 at the animal shelter, veterinarian positions that we've talked about previously. I think a veterinarian technician and another veterinarian services related position. And then 1 human resource conversion of a part-time to a full-time, and 1 in the city manager's office in our public affairs division. So 15 total new positions in the next fiscal year. So getting into a few highlights, starting with our police department, these are positions that are and services that are all part of Measure E. So a new training officer, commercial enforcement officer, 2 new dispatch supervisor positions, and additional flock cameras, which is the license plate readers that we've been installing around the city. I think this will bring us up to over 70 at various intersections around the city. Continue to expand our services offer related to addressing homelessness. We have money in the Measure E budget to really help us explore more permanent shelter solutions. In addition to, we're definitely gearing up for the next winter sanctuary program, but we'd also like to look at expanding beyond that to a year-round option. So we're looking at what that might look like. Certainly, priority is to get something underway before next winter, but we're also looking at, again, the longer term stuff. So we have money in there to explore both of those, and then more money for permanent housing options and a variety of different methods. So it's a really robust program that you'll see as you look through the budget document. And then just some quality of life things, graffiti abatement, continuing if we see graffiti, get it off as quickly as we can. We have a contractor that we've hired in the last year to really be out there and taking it down quickly. It's even on, not just on public property, but on private property as well. So anything essentially that's visible from the public, whether it's public or private, we're gonna get it taken down. Already talked about the additional animal shelter positions. Next year, we have the city's 25th anniversary celebration, so we're planning, I can't tell you all the secrets now, but we're planning some pretty exciting things, ways of celebrating the city's 25th anniversary, so look forward to discussing that more with you later. I also want to highlight, right now, there's no money in next year's budget for the zoo project. We will be coming back to you in a future meeting that'll give you, we need to make amendments to the CIP and the budget to reflect that, but because that, the entitlements and the approvals just happened last meeting, we didn't have time to get all that in place for this document. So it'll come back probably first or second meeting in June with all the recommendations related to that. Some economic development highlights, Project Elevate that you recently saw and you approved the letter of intent. There's some money in there to work together with CenterCal to move that project forward. Money into our facade improvement program, our brew incentive program, continue to build out infrastructure in our Grant Line Business Park. The Elk Grove Innovation Center, which we're excited about, and then improvements and upgrades to our Autumn Mall. And you can see the ones with the asterisks are ones that are proposed to be funded out of Measure E. I'm not going to go over this. Christina did a great job. I'm highlighting some of our infrastructure projects. We talk about this a lot, but our CalPERS liability is the reason we talk about it because we're proud of it. Every year we put money aside to help reduce the city's ongoing annual pension obligations. And so since 15-16, we've put $13.5 million above and beyond what PERS has required us to pay. And so what that does, it stabilizes our rates. It allows us to bring that down over time so that as rates rise or as CalPERS investments fall, then we're not impacted as much because we've done a lot to mitigate that through our payments. So through the 5-year forecast, we're projecting continuing to invest close to $1 million each year. So next fiscal year, you see $900,000 in there. And we're, I think, in the top 10% of agencies in the state when it comes to how well our PERS is funded. So that's something that the city council should be proud of, and our community should be. So the recommendation is, if you have any questions of me or the staff that's here, we're happy to answer those. If you have any direction for us before we bring back the final budget recommendations to you at the next meeting. If you have any changes tonight, we'll bring those back in the final document. Again, you don't have to adopt the budget at the next meeting, but it'll be available to you. Should you decide to adopt it, it'll be all publicly noticed, where you can take that action. If you're not ready to at the next meeting, then it can move to the second meeting in June. But we'd ask that you get it adopted at that meeting at the latest, because it gets messy if we have to go beyond the fiscal year. So that is the end of my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions that the council might have.
All right, thank you. Excellent presentation. Before we get to any questions, I'm going to open up public comment. I do have one person signed up to speak, and that is Lynn Wheat.
Thank you. I commend staff on their report. I haven't read it all in detail yet, but hope to over the next couple weeks. I do want to bring up something under the CIP. At one time, White Lock Interchange was a priority project. Actually, in 2007, it was a priority project, and they were looking forward to funding it then. My concerns about the CIP is we are relying heavily on grants, and I know that the staff has done a great job working on and getting some of those grants, but I do have some concerns about that. In discussing the traffic issues, I'm a big walker and bicycle rider, and actually have walked down through Old Town, and there's been so much traffic, I've moved faster than the cars. So when we're looking at trying to address some of our traffic issues, I most certainly like to see more of that money going towards getting the trails connected, and us using some of our own city monies instead of being so dependent upon the grants. I have always been glad that they've been funding the CalPERS, the retirement, and it actually was our previous city manager and budget managers who had started that, and I talked to them in detail. So our staff does deserve kudos on that, because that is a big deal. I want to say that by state law, we are required to have a balanced budget. That is an expectation under the law. I would like to see some changes as far as the money we invest in economic development. I think that we need to have some more go towards our homelessness. I was in 2 of our retail centers, and there were homeless individuals that were sprawled out on the sidewalks. I don't think that that really helps our local businesses, and I think it would be more of an economic development to get some of the homeless into some permanent housing or get them some help, and for us all to begin to advocate towards changing those conservatorship laws. And you, as the mayor and council members, could most certainly work with our assembly and state assembly people to start to make that happen so that we can address our population here that is unhoused. I'd like, as we look towards different housing, that we once again consider some tiny homes as an option. The Auto Mall Next, they've received much money through our city during the time that we've become a city. I'm not real excited about that. I think that people know their way around the Auto Mall and know how to get to where they want to go. So I'd rather, once again, have that money be directed to something that would meet more of our residents' needs. Again, thank you for that. With Nordstrom Rack opening, I would just suggest maybe we have police directing some of that traffic, because I can only imagine how congested that road is. And once again, that is why I've advocated for something to be done with the White Lock interchange. Thank you.
All right, thank you for your comments. I will go ahead and close the public comment opportunity. And just before I turn to my council colleagues, I do want to just kind of pause and reflect the importance of this tonight's presentation, the recognizing the strong fiscal health of the city. There's much to celebrate because we all know that's not the case for the state or most cities in California, as they're facing very serious budget woes and looking at cutting services and positions. So I just wanted to pause and really celebrate that moment. I think this is a lot of tremendous work, and I know that staff played a huge role, and just with our city manager and all of our various staff that played a role in not only putting this together, but recognizing that fiscal health and the type of restraint that it takes to get there. And, and then I think that, this is an important moment. And then also that statement that you made right off the bat with a balanced budget with fully funded reserves. That statement is monumental. You pick up the newspaper, any newspaper. That is not the case in California for our surrounding cities and maybe other parts of the country. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I will start with my left.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. I'll continue with where you left off. I'd echo those sentiments. And then, on top of that, 5% debt, I think, is another one, so, keeping control over our debt is another good move that, staff, this council, previous councils have made, and to put us in this position. We're very fortunate. I'm very thankful for Measure E and the voters' trust in us for that. I think despite this good picture, I just want to make sure people understand this allows us to continue to stay ahead as far as public safety, as far as keeping a handle on homelessness, and investing in economic opportunities when they come about. So strategically, I think we're set up for continued success in the future. As far as the improvements, I wanted to ask a question about because I'm a big believer also in keeping our pensions funded, especially as we bring on more staff that, to serve our great community, making sure that they'll be taken care of and when retirement comes, and that it won't put an undue burden on future councils and future staff. So right now you mentioned 86%, but I also recall we had, over 95% funded. And do we know offhand, maybe this is a question from Mr. Bagwell, do we know offhand what that would take as far as dollars to get us from an 86 to a 95% pension funded obligation? 13.5 million, I think you had right now for 86%.
I can get back to you on that one to get to the specifics. There's quite a few different tiers involved and various funding levels that are kind of in a mixture. But unless you wanted to add something, Matt, I think we could look at that.
Okay.
And Darren, that was we were over 100% funded a year ago because CalPERS killed it. 1 year they had a 21 odd percent return on investments, just as a real driver behind our funded ratio.
Right.
So that just their annual target is 6.8%. So they completely blew it out of the water. So we were fully funded for a year. And then their next year, they actually missed their target. So our funding ratio went back down. So it's really largely dependent on CalPERS' investment earnings.
Okay, so then it would, then the question I had, because where I was going with this was, I wondered if it might be worthwhile for us to establish, similar to our economic reserves for the general fund, to establish a policy to maintain a funded pension obligation of, I don't know, 90, I'm just arbitrarily picking here, 90%, but something that would be manageable. The reason why I was asking for the dollar amount because I didn't want to, put undue burden either on future councils, but maybe are you able to predict something like that given it's so much dependent on the market?
We could definitely think about some kind of policy to remind the council to you all allowed us to establish a pension trust as well. So we've been cutting checks to PERS above and beyond what we actually are billed every year.
Yeah.
But now we have a trust where we can set aside money and invest it ourselves and not have to give it to PERS and have control over how and when we use that money. So in conjunction with those tools, we could talk about a strategy as to where we want to get to as far as our funded ratio.
Perfect, yeah. So having a strategy that we could consider for future councils that will make sure pensions are adequately funded, that'd be fantastic, if my colleagues would agree. Okay, great, thank you. And then I also agree with Ms. Wheat's comments about traffic for our future Nordstrom Rack. If we haven't already, is there a way to make sure we have, I know a lot of it's on private property, but, you know, to the extent, yeah, if you've got, Deputy, yes, sir.
Yes, sir. I actually already made a note to find that date and put somebody on it, so we can get back to you on what the plan is later.
Fantastic, thank you.
Thank you.
That's all I had, thank you.
Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Both of your comments were very good and very important because as we have a healthy budget reserve and we have 30 million coming through on Measure E on top of that, it sets the city up to do a lot of valuable things, especially as we're trying to continue the course of maintaining a safe and resilient community. And also looking at ways to relieve traffic congestion in the arteries where it's most needed. As Ms. Wheat had said, and as I mentioned earlier in the last presentation regarding the White Lock interchange, making sure that's still on the list of priorities to help relieve that, because you have 3 veins of traffic, whereas you have Calvine, Laguna, Elk Grove Boulevard, and White Lock also being a main thoroughfare, just looking for ways to make sure that we have easier traffic flows to allow people to get from west to east and getting on the Highway 99. Those are very important. And looking for ways to help get off of Highway 99 as well. And that obviously that takes a lot of partnership with state dollars and Measure A dollars and seeing how that all fits in the mix. That's going to be very important for us. I like having this additional money to continue looking for ways to address homelessness and being able to find people and get them in a place to where we could get them into a safer environment, moving people from off the streets on being self-subsisting again, and just doing it in a very earnest way and trying to look for and identifying a permanent shelter, because we had great success with the Enhanced Winter Sanctuary. And we're still working through the gathering in our homeless tracker to identify individuals and putting them back into a place to where they can move back into the mainstream of life. And I think that's super important. And one of the other things that, in looking at also, is I know we've had some challenges in trying to identify staffing for the Animal Services Center, but I like that we have funding for a vet technician and a veterinary assistant. Those are super key. But knowing how there is a legitimate shortage out there, because folks, as they make the transition, is trying to make sure that we are finding and identifying people who will stay with us for a little longer than a year, because this is especially as you're dealing with TNRs and different days where you're doing the work of the public with cats, feral cats, dogs, and just doing about that. It could be a very grinding, very emotionally taxing, and that's where some of the burnout comes in. And so I'm glad that there's funding dedicated to that. And as we identify our needs more in the future, that we do what we can to help identify more needs for the Animal Services Clinic and making it more of and really bolstering that up to really doing our part and really serving the public in that regard. The economic development package is very solid. I like what we're doing initially with the facade improvement program, the brew program, attracting new businesses through startup Elk Grove incentive, and seeing the new businesses coming in, those are very healthy signs, very, very good things. But I think a lot of it boils down to having clean audits that we usually do every year to look at our fiscal health, and knowing that we're doing everything in our book to be open, transparent, and showing that we are doing everything on the up and up. That is definitely a true testament to our staff's work in keeping the city in a good fiscal place. And I really thank you all for doing that.
Thank you. Councilmember Spieth.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So one of the nice things about agreeing with everything that's been said so far is that I can align myself with your comments and I don't have to restate them. But I think one thing that is important to say is that we're not here by accident, right? I've said it numerous times before. You know, it's from the active participation of residents and past staff, present staff, past city councils, current city councils. We're not here by accident. And I think the mayor has said earlier, we're certainly casting I'm not throwing shade on anybody, because in this instance, it's very, very difficult or in our current environment with inflation, it's very difficult to keep not just our personal finances in balance, but to keep the city finances in balance. And so I think it's because everybody has been working in the right direction. And so just remember that when we're looking around and we have the ability to consider new things where other people are looking at contracting, we're not here by accident. So I guess I'll start with, I should have asked the question while you were up, the library phase 2. I know we haven't even broke ground on phase 1. So this is a ways off, but when do we think we'll be looking at potentially a library phase 2 design or conceptual?
We actually did some very preliminary looking at what that might look like, what the expansion size might be, the parking demand and things like that. We haven't taken it any further than that. So really, I think partly depends on demand. I would suggest that, we kind of get the library open and see how it's functioning, see what the pass-through rate is, how many people are visiting it. If it's feeling like, hey, this thing is popping, we need to start looking at expansion, we can jump into design development for the next phase. The good news is we have the space now to be able to do that. And so it's really up to the council. One of the main reasons why the phase 1 is achievable is because we received significant grant funds, right? We got a big allocation when Cooper was in the assembly, and we also received, I'm kind of probably going to butcher some of these numbers, but Senator Ashby gave us $1 million, and then we also, I think, got a $4 or $5 million grant, a competitive grant, library grant through the state. Yeah. And so we also have library impact fees that we've utilized, as well as some library funds through the library JPA itself. So we've kind of emptied the kitty, right, to try to make phase 1 happen. So we have to go back and try to find additional monies to make that happen. We could take, some from some of our general fund reserves if you wanted to move in that direction. But I would recommend at this point, let's get the phase 1 open. Let's see how that goes, and then start talking about when that next phase might occur based on the demand and need of that. But we can send you a copy of that kind of very preliminary look at what that phase 2 might look like. So you can kind of get a sense of where that would expand to and the square footage that might expand to. That's probably would change if we actually delve deep into the next phase, but it gives you a sense of what we've already kind of thought of at a high level.
Right. Fantastic. Well, recognizing that it's further down the road, I know that one of the things that folks were interested in, even though it didn't score extremely high, was, for a theater, but perhaps we could look at a black box theater as part of that. That's simply a suggestion for evaluation down the road. Obviously, nothing we're going to put in 2024 and 2025. My second one, is and again, these suggestions that I have or ideas that I have, if you say, look, Kevin, this is too close to be putting into the budget for this next year, let's plan it for next year. Let's, don't be concerned about saying, can't get it done this, for this next year. But, so one of the things that, I wind up driving behind buses a lot. So I often think about buses. I'm sure I could probably find more interesting things to think about. But I also see, what I see when I'm out and about is that there is some available capacity in those buses. And so, I got to thinking, and that's probably, again, a dangerous thing. But, right now, teens, students have SAC ride free RT, right? And I got to thinking about seniors who are currently, having a difficult time making it on SSI because, yes, inflation's gone up, but SSI has not increased accordingly. And so I was wondering, something we can think about, bring back at a later time whenever is appropriate. Is there a way that we can investigate seniors on SSI being able to have no rate, just like students do, or no fee, no fare? That's the right way to say it. I recognize that's, there's some, rules and such around it, but I think that's something that hopefully everyone can agree with, at least can, is worth a look.
So I know that SAC-RT is looking for some unusual, unique circumstances like that. So it can be something that we can see what's happening on that side, but
Yeah.
I mean, certainly it's good to have the discussion.
Yeah, that's all I'm asking for is a discussion to see if it can be done. Like, again, there's seniors who are not getting a raise.
Yeah.
So. Anyway.
Knowing that, we would be responsible for, it's not coming from the SAC-RT budget.
For sure, no, it would obviously have to be from us. I mean, we're paying for the buses anyway, right now. I'm fairly certain, I don't know when the switchover will be to RT, right? But we'll always be subsidizing it, right? No.
Well, no, we're already, RT already serves us.
It serves us now.
RT serves us. But what I'm saying, there is a point in time in which they will change to their buses and all that stuff as ours age out.
I know what you're talking about.
Right. When our buses are not,
When the
no longer
Green
in
Trail
service,
buses
our
phase
RT will be then replacing those buses and we'll be paying them, right? I guess what I'm trying to say is I see excess capacity. Is there the ability
you wanna
to
fill
put
the
seniors on,
buses. You wanna
fill the
fill the buses.
buses with seniors who are on SSI because we're paying for it anyway?
If the council's interested, we could certainly start the discussion with SAC-RT staff and say, what could that look like? Some kind of income verification, level, that if you qualify, that there's a monthly bus pass that could be provided to seniors upon request, and, how much we could provide some cost estimates of what that would take and some funding source options that we can present back to you guys at a future council meeting.
Did you want to look at that, or do you want us as the directors? I mean, we can certainly, but you're more than welcome to just have that conversation with the general
Yeah, I
manager.
think as at the staff level, we
that's
can
fine.
start those conversations and
Yeah.
just kind of explore it if the council's interested in doing that.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm fine with that. But if I could just add on, I have a suggestion also. Sure. Since we're looking at possibly subsidizing that, perhaps a consideration to, and I don't know how this might happen, but to encourage more usage of Uber, Lyft type of, so getting people out of their cars, less, we're talking about traffic and all that. So I would just, maybe there's a possibility to have a discounted rate or something for folks who used Uber, Lyft in the city that gives them the option to.
I'm trying to understand.
I think a lot of people use Uber and Lyft when they're going out of the city, not too much. Or is that what you said? Sorry.
Are you?
Or because seniors could do, that's another option. It's other mode, right? Not just buses, right? I mean, seniors could use that too.
I'm open to looking at any options that are reasonable and do not have, a detrimental, concern over the long period, right? One thing I would hate to do is to do something and then have to take it back in 2 years, right? I don't want that argument, right?
Yeah.
So, but regardless of whether it was a bus or an Uber or whatever, if we can come back with some.
Yeah, because it's just the challenge of then you're challenged with does a senior want to go on that route? And then they have a first mile, last mile, it's not going to necessarily take them to where they want to go. So if you're going to, it's just a suggestion, if we're going to look at something, maybe it's something as a
How about
whole.
we make it all, of additional modes of transportation?
Yeah.
So that it's not this or that, because there's others that are out there as well.
I agree. This is probably something, because this is something that I've been working on, and Jason had brought this up, and CJ have also brought this up with autonomous vehicles. But that's a longer discussion. When looking at RT and looking at transportation, utilizing the lanes that aren't there, and bringing autonomous vehicles that would be actually free. But that's a longer discussion, and we can definitely.
That's definitely
longer discussion.
Longer discussion.
But I support Councilman Spies with looking at trying to find a solution where we can allow seniors to go on there for free. So.
Yeah, I think with the existing platforms that are there, which is the buses that are already there.
Right.
But I'm curious to see how an app program would be able to do that. I don't.
Right.
I'm not sure, but that's what research is for.
Yeah. Now, my hope would be that, everything generally that a senior might need, like the grocery store or, hopefully those are along those routes. That's what I'm looking for, is trying to alleviate the pain of going to the grocery store. And I recognize the last mile is always the hardest part.
Right.
So.
Well, and the timing too, right? I mean,
Sure.
they want to go.
Frequency.
Yeah.
Right.
So anyway, just to more comprehensive is my thought.
Good. Okay. Then let's see. I'd like to make sure that we continue commitment to the workforce development program, like Cyber Proud, et cetera. I understand there would be there's some ideas for changes, and I think that's good in terms of, let's ask who our existing businesses are and see what their needs are, because then we're definitely helping a pipeline. So I definitely want to make sure we have a continued commitment to that workforce development.
Just to confirm, there is money in the next fiscal year for that program.
Right. Awesome. Yeah. Good. And I haven't read it all yet. I still got a while to go.
As it relates to the workforce development, are we tied to just, can we look at other industries as well?
So
I know there's an interest with even the building trades. So I'm just putting it out there.
This is the appropriate time to bring up what I brought up to you regarding, and honestly, actually what Councilman Spies tried to do last year when he was talking about the workforce development program with UBI, with folks who go through that specific program. Would this be an appropriate time, or can we address a little bit of that? You'd mentioned last year, and everyone kind of looked at you, and I don't know if you want to go into it. I know that I've talked a little bit about it, but looking at how do we support families who are going through the certification program, and it's always hard to quantify, but if we can alleviate pain, if we can alleviate some of the burden, whether it's gas, whether it's food, or whether it's childcare, I think that's something that we should look at. And a lot of this stemmed from last year, from the conversation with Councilman Spies, when he brought up before us and he said, we ought to look at this. And I think that's super important, especially for folks who are going through our workforce development program.
And so to add on with that, I did have an opportunity to have a discussion with, I believe it might have been Cyber Proud at the time, and it might have been, anyway, I can't remember. But my point being is, it sounds like a good idea. Implementation is a bit of a challenge, and in anonymous experience, there was a strong potential for abuse of that. And so I'm certainly interested and open to having that conversation again. I do think that that is generally a good idea. I think it's just difficult in implementation. That said, if you want to bring it, let's bring it back up and have a full conversation about it. I definitely think that's a good idea.
I think that's something that we should look into. I know that, obviously we're going through the first phase of seeing how people get certified and how people do. I think maybe let it allow a couple of years and then look at what the retention rate is, how many folks are doing that, getting certified and actually getting jobs, and then potentially seeing how we can help out. Again, when we alleviate that burden with families who are working hard, whether it's a single mom trying to make ends meet, whether it's a single father trying to do the same thing, we have to start looking out for our community. And these are folks generally who are working who live in Elk Grove. And I think it's super important that we have to look out for folks who we haven't looked out for. Ms. Lynn, we brought something. Thank you for being here. First of all, thank you for being here. You're very correct. There needs to be more people engaged, especially when we're talking about budget, especially when we're talking about our finance. So thank you for being here. And thank you to all staff for the hard work that you've been doing, and for everything that you've done. Thank you for a balanced budget. But it's something that we need to start looking at as we invest in capital projects, that we invest in economic development. We also need to start looking at folks who can't make ends meet. And again, it might be just a couple dollars here and there, but it will help them until they get certified, and then they're on their own, and then they bring that story of success. So I would, again, if the council would like to look at that in the near future and possibly consider doing something like that for folks who go through the certification program with our city. So
maybe what I might suggest is, it sounds like there's a lot of interest in the workforce development program. It's been a little while since we've talked about that. We can do a little presentation to you in the coming weeks that just talk about the status of the current programs, the investment, what's planned for the next year. There was some reallocated ARPA funds that we're going to use to offer some more cohorts there. We do have a little information about the additional kind of financial assistance that we might be able to offer while somebody's attending the program. To Councilmember Spees' point, we talked to a few providers, and there are some challenges with that program, but we could certainly talk through that and see whether there's some opportunities there. I know Mr. Doan has had some conversations that he'd be happy to share about what the potential is. And then also, if you remember when we went out, we did an RFP for people that, for our program, right, for workforce development, and that we received several, but we're always looking for opportunities to expand that or to get into other areas that we may have not touched so far, right? We've got the ones that have been successful so far, but certainly a look back to see what we've done so far, which ones have been really successful. Are there any gaps and things that we're missing that we want to focus on in the coming year? So
thank you. I look forward to hearing from that. I know that everybody usually gets worried when it comes to programs as such because you think of abuse, but we have to look at the families who will be affected by this and their children who are going to be affected by this. If we don't take risk helping out our own citizens, like, why are we here? Sorry, and I mean this even for me. Why am I here? Right? We need to help out those who need a hand. Will there be bad actors? Possibly, but we're hoping for the best, and we're hoping to continue doing this so that we can help alleviate some of that burden. I look forward to hearing. Hopefully, one of these days we can do a whole year winter sanctuary. That program is amazing. I went out there, spent some time, gave food out, and just to hear the workers there, hearing their colleagues' story, hearing they have one who was in a prior military service, and asking him, he got his master's degree, thinking about going back for his doctoral degree, hearing the stories of how he has helped out several folks transition into permanent housing, and to see that success rate, it just blows my mind. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that those stories are shared in our region as much as they should be, right? We just see homeless individuals for whatever the circumstances is, and other folks have their opinions and they blame each other, but like our city's doing amazing work. I think we need to highlight that. So I'm super excited for what's to come. I'm hoping that we can find a solution for Winter Sanctuary for an all year round, so that we can do something. So I look forward in hearing more of what we're gonna be doing. I'm excited, as again, echoing my council members, with what they said. I'm excited about the projects that we are investing in. Thank you for the grants that we have been going after, because those grants are vital for us to continue to fund, and then we use some city funds to match that. So super important, but I'm excited for our future, and I will defer to the mayor.
But wait, there's more.
Councilmember Spees was
I wasn't done,
deliberating.
Man.
I am sorry.
Done, man.
I'm sorry.
I still have 45 more minutes. I'm kidding.
Sure.
That's a joke. All right. So let's see. So I'm on my two last things. So this one is okay. Public safety. where it intersects with recreation, right? And this is a bit of a generalization. I don't have the specific numbers on hand right now, but children in lower socioeconomic bands are more susceptible to drowning casualties. I can get you the specific numbers, but that's what it is. And so what I'm wondering is there a way for us to partner with CSD and find ways to provide just basic swimming classes to children who are at or below the poverty line? I don't think that would be a huge spend, but that's something that I hope that I can get some consensus on, and we can do some research and bring that one back.
So that's not for this summer or this year?
No, I mean, if it's too long of analysis, then let's not do it this year. But I think it's important, right? It's a way to get back to our residents and those who may need a little bit of a helping hand, so.
Actually, it's coincidentally, I was just talking to Councilmember Jennings. He's telling us about what he does for his family. But I think there is statistics about what you're saying.
Absolutely.
And so I'm happy to support that as well.
Yeah, I mean, it is a interesting intersection between public safety and recreation, but the reality of it is if you're a kid whose parents don't have the money to teach you how to swim, you are more likely to drown. And so I hope we can look at that.
I don't want to put Phil on the spot, but I know they have some scholarship programs available for various spots. I'm not sure if that applies for swim lessons or not, for low-income families. Maybe you could address that, whether that doesn't mean we couldn't augment that.
Right.
But I wonder if it exists.
I think
It exists. I'm aware of that for
Okay.
one particular reason.
Okay.
But I won't broadcast it here.
Hello, Councilmember Spies, and Council. Yes, we do have some limited funds available for low-income participants in our swim lesson program. We've dedicated some additional funds through Measure E, in addition to some funds that we have dedicated through our regular budgeting process for the Kissimmee CSD. We also actively search for grants and sponsorship opportunities for our Learn to Swim program. We've been generously given funds through some of our local nonprofits and foundations, including the Spies Foundation. So I know you weren't looking for that, but I do want to recognize that we have generous community members that do give from time to time for this program. One of the things we try to do is to make a whole package for some of our low-income participants, which would include a bathing suit, towel, goggles, backpack, so they have everything they need to participate in the program, because sometimes those additional items make it a barrier even if we do have scholarships available to participate in the program itself. So we definitely would be very eager to partner additionally with the city if council is so interested in initiating those conversations. And to Kevin or council members' Visa's point,
Kevin is fine.
That the impact that you make monetarily is not a huge number, but the impact you make in the community members' participation, and it's a lifetime skill, is enormous. So we would be very happy to continue those conversations.
So how long has this program been? Is this new?
We-
Scholarships, because I'm interested in data. So I'm fully on board with what the goal is.
Mm-hmm.
But we can't make someone take these courses.
Oh.
So how do we, so what is the need? The need is there. So what is the data? Are people signing up? Or is there a shortfall and then you're looking at budget augmentation? So I'm interested in the data to see how best to support it, as opposed to saying, let's support it, but then 5 people sign up.
Yeah, we would love to be able to provide that additional data for council. I will tell you that we have more requests than we have funds available to use. And folks, when something's free, a lot of times you have like folks that participate or choose not to participate. But we definitely have a high usage for these funds and a wait list of individuals that are interested.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's worth, working together. And identifying how that works. And then even the school district, in identifying students. They have the data when it comes to, households and low income and who's getting like free lunch programs and things like that. But there are privacy issues there too. But there is a way to capture some of this information to make it more meaningful so that the outreach is better than just putting it on the website free, but you have to show proof of
Correct.
your economic status.
and
Those
through
become
the-
challenging conversations.
And through the Measure E funding, additionally, we have a youth advocacy advocate that will be working very closely with our school district as well as the city to identify families in need and to identify pockets of the community that we're currently not interacting with or serving.
Yeah, so I think we have two great partners, but all three working together to fill a common goal and need, I think would be a good way to move forward from my perspective.
Well, Mayor, just an observation. So thanks for being here again, Mr. Lewis.
Of course.
That was very fortuitous.
And I heard you say you're augmenting your program with Measure E funds already. So the city and the CSD are already sharing with the Measure E program. So I feel like that's already being done. Yeah, and you know what I'm saying. So I don't know that there's more needed to be done here at the city level for now. I mean, maybe you grow the program even more, but it sounds like you have it under control.
You don't have enough money though.
Yeah, but you do with Measure E. That's what he's saying.
But he's using some of
We
it.
are using the funds that have been allocated, the percentage of funds that have going to that program comparative to the larger pot are being maximized as much as possible. We'd be happy to provide working with our partners, and I can coordinate with Jason.
I mean, if you're able to help 30 families, but the need is 50, I would want to know that.
Right, but this is the first time they'll be using Measure E. So to your point about data,
We need data.
let's see how that works out first, right? And then maybe next year there was greater need or not. I mean, I don't know either.
Data-driven decision-making is always good. Let's get the data.
Well, that's why I said, it doesn't have to be this year. It can be next year. It is something I'd like to put on the radar as a concern for
But I
public safety.
appreciate the nexus with public safety.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, you're not done yet.
Well, wait a minute,
There's more,
All right,
Mr.
he's
Lewis.
not done.
But I'm not done
But
yet.
he's not done.
I'm not done yet.
Councilmember Spies.
When you're
is
done, I'll
Back to you?
bring
Oh,
Phil
okay.
back.
All right, so I'm going to wrap this up quick. I think there's we hear a lot of different complaints in general about traffic, et cetera. Two things that I probably get most complaints about are homelessness, of course, and we've kind of talked about that tonight. But in terms of graffiti and litter, I want to punctuate. Thank you very much on the graffiti abatement. That is important to people, whether they say it or not. But when they do say it, it's usually loud and clear. I'm looking forward to seeing the Keep Elk Grove Clean pilot happen because I do see improvement. I'd still like to see more improvement along 99, but I recognize that I wish I could get Caltrans to do a little better. But I am noticing that throughout the streets, it is getting cleaner for longer periods of time. And so I want to thank you for that. I appreciate your consideration on all these different items. And good job on the budget. And there you go. Now
it's my turn.
Oh, well, wait a minute. It's your turn to decide who goes next.
I thought it was my turn.
But I have one thing
But
to
I'll let
ask
you
Mr.
go.
Lewis after
Yeah.
that. So, back to the discussion we had earlier. I know through the Casuma's Recreation Opportunity Program, CROP, that's a scholarship program, but looking at that, how are the community reactions and involvement into that program? How is that helping in providing opportunities to low-income and needy children to not only participate in swimming programs, but into a lot of programs? Because that's another facet to where the Measure E dollars could play a role in helping. And from there, how if that's not enough, what are other methods that we could do or help increase future involvement and participation into crop and providing those opportunities, swim opportunities, sports opportunities, and all that stuff.
Yeah, so the Croft program is our primary way that we fund our scholarships through the district. We also have our Making Waves program, which is the Learn to Swim program that we discussed earlier. So with Croft, families have the opportunity to participate in enrichment, general enrichment activities, sports programming, anything that the Kissimmee CSD offers at either the district facilities as well as the city facilities, including the Elk Grove Aquatics Center. We have made enhancements to the Croft program as well as the Making Waves program, utilizing some of the Measure E funds. And so there is an enhanced ability for community members to participate through the scholarship programs. And we're always, again, looking for additional opportunities to provide additional funds for those families so that they can participate, because sometimes cost is a barrier to participation. We want to try to limit those barriers as much as possible.
No, I'm glad you're here tonight, because part of the method and what we're trying to do is, again, we're back to providing what we can to help build and sustain a safe and reliant community, or a safe, resilient community. And it's providing us enough opportunities and avenues for children, especially if their parents aren't able to afford their participation. And anything that we could do to help, especially from a life-saving technique, teaching them how to swim, and having different venues, whether it be the Jerry Fox Pool, Wackford, Aquatic Center, being able to meet the families where they are, because not every family can afford to drive from point A to point B. At least we have 3 pools that are near each of the students to help provide that experience and to give them that opportunity. And as the mayor said, I mean, we may not be able to reach every kid, but at least we're doing what we can to give something to help provide for, because after seeing the numbers for California median homes, the median home for a California home now is $900,000. That's a very sad look at how we are as a society, because we always want to be first and beat our chest and being the best, but $900,000 median price for a home, that's not anything to be proud of. The whole thing is to have affordable housing, providing accessibility, allowing people to live their version of the American dream or the California dream. And that's, I mean, the budget is supposed to be a reflection of our values. Anything we could do to help in that respect, I mean, this is where we can work out as a partner in that respect.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis, for indulging us this evening.
Oh, yeah.
We know that you're not responsible to us, but it's a partnership, and thank you for indulging the conversation.
I very much appreciate the partnership.
And always wear that CSD hat, so.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Councilmember Burrow.
Sounds like you were tonight.
I know, I'm like, where are we going with this? So just to recap, again, I want to congratulate our staff for our healthy fiscal state of being with our city. I think one of the things that's important to me to focus on, and our city manager brought it up, in that is that we are looking at a year-round shelter. I've had meetings with the city manager on this subject as well, as we continue to look for a site that can serve year-long. We've had a wonderful partnership with the Gathering Inn, and I agree the success stories were tremendous, and that's where we need to continue and then step up and do more. And a year-round is really the best solution, not just for the cold winter months, but more of a long-term solution, because those stories of the residents there that stayed there, that got to permanent supportive housing, that should be our driving goal. So that remains something that I'm looking forward to seeing how we can augment the budget to reflect that. And as soon as we are able to find something, I imagine you'll come before us as we find something to address that long-term, year-long need. But I also want to highlight our healthy reserves for emergencies. I think that is also very important and critical. And our economic development investments are investments in our future. It's an investment in our city. So I recognize those and thank those. And just again, thank God for Measure E as well. What a great, as pessimistic as folks might have been back in the day of getting it to the finish line, not supporting it, however, whatever happened, the city, the community, the residents are benefiting. And that is tremendous. So the fact that we have, increased, enhanced public safety, we are seeing some of those dollars coming back. We had a meeting with the CSD. Was it yesterday or day before? It was yesterday. And we talked about the improved response time for our paramedics and fire. That's tremendous work. That's saving lives. So just great news, great partnership with the CSD and others. So just wanted to thank everyone. Great work. Great job, everyone. So we'll move on. I think you have some direction on some outstanding items, but overall, more of a robust, healthy discussion. Thank you. Next up is item 9.5.
As to receive information and consider appointing a council member representative and alternate to serve on the Sacramento Homeless Policy Council. Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members, I'm Jason Lindgren, your city clerk. This is an item. We have a board that's come to life over the last couple of years, heading into its third year. It's had sporadic meetings. It has about 4 per year. These meetings can fluctuate around. They've been trying to find a location, but most of them are on Zoom. And so it's just one of these things that's a scheduling challenge for folks in order to find the time to be there. Typically, these are happening on Fridays. That's what I mostly know, but they do option to go to Monday, depending on how they can get a group together. They do aim to have meetings, whether it's a Monday or a Friday, quarterly and it's from that time period of 9 a.m. to 3:30 p.m., about a 2.5 hour length is what they anticipate. But for us to designate a representative and then an alternate.
Thank you. So I'm currently the representative, and the meetings are sporadic, so it's hard to calendar something like that in. And so it's becoming a little challenging. So, and a lot of the content of the meeting are report outs of what the city is doing when it comes to addressing homelessness. And I know a lot of these issues are covered in the Affordable Housing Subcommittee that Councilmember Suen and Councilmember Spee serve on. So
Robles.
Yeah.
Is it the Homeless Committee or the Affordable Housing Committee?
The Affordable Housing and Homeless. So it's so that the information, it's really a report out of what the city is doing.
Mm-hmm.
So my recommendation would be I would recommend Councilmember Suen, if you would be interested in serving. And right now, the alternate is our vice mayor. It's his choosing if he wants to stay on there. But I would welcome someone else taking the lead on it so that the information that's occurring in the subcommittee, you can share it out. It's really an opportunity for cities to report out what's happening. And you get that information firsthand through your committee work as well. So something to consider. If you're interested, I would certainly recommend your participation if you're interested.
Thank you. I mean, the only complication what I just heard is the timing. So the Friday, I'm on the SACOG Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Committee. They also meet Fridays afternoons. So
this is quarterly, so I don't know.
They also do it.
Is it quarterly?
But I don't know which Friday. But so
it's not set in stone. Like they are trying to get consensus. The group is.
Yeah.
It's been Fridays. They're looking at Mondays, but it's not.
I'm happy to try it out, but Vice Mayor, do you want to move up to be the active and I'll do the alternate?
If that's I could do it. I mean, I don't have any group meetings on Fridays and no conflicts schedule-wise.
So I could do that. I could do the alternate.
And then I think
I'll just-
Councilmember Robles is also interested. Now, remind me.
I'll step up.
Okay, I mean, I'm good
got
either
you.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I got you.
that's fine.
I'll do it.
So will you do it as the first chair, the lead, and then you'll stay on as the alternate?
You want to say alternate or you
I
want?
could be the alternate.
You want to stay on as alternate? Okay.
Okay.
I can be the alternate.
You're good with that?
I'm good.
Okay, and I think what I would do is getting, you don't need a staff liaison, but I would urge you to get staff report. I would get a report from Ms. Bontrager so that you can share some of that information. It's really just reporting what the city is doing. So it's a great group of people, but unfortunately, the lack of set timing on that, it's been challenging for the last few as I've been traveling for work. So I appreciate you stepping up. And if you need to swap out any other committee because of this additional role, let us know if it becomes too much. And we can make those changes as needed as well. Does that work? All right, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for that. And so we have our direction here, City Clerk, on what we're doing. So with that, we'll move on to our next item, which is our council comments, reports, and future agenda items. I'll start with Councilmember Robles. Anything to report?
We had a regional sand meeting today. We'll be meeting next week for the JPA connector. We'll be talking about the Cameron Road. I know that Public Works Director Jeff Warner will be speaking there, so excited to hear the update that you have for us. And as of right now, I think that's all.
Thank you. Councilmember Spies?
Nothing to report. Library tomorrow.
Excellent. Councilmember Suen?
We had a robust conversation at SACOG regarding the MTP, Metropolitan Transportation Plan. So more to come on that.
Thank you. Vice Mayor?
The Sacramento Library Board meeting tomorrow with Councilmember Spies.
All right. I had SAC-RT since our last meeting, and then CSD 2x2. And of course, I mentioned during our previous item on the synchronization of lights for improved response time as one of the most important components. Did you want to share any of the other components, Vice Mayor, from the CSD meeting? There's the paving of the roads for one of the fire stations.
Yeah, no, I think you covered all the key.
But that
all
was the
key
most
parts.
important one.
Yeah, the synchronization of the lights for
And then-
public safety purposes was definitely important, was an important detail.
And then you have the drone.
Yep, the program that Captain
That's
Schaaf
launching,
mentioned yesterday during our meeting, that was really good. That program being launched is part of the technology of our dedication to our public, and it's an exciting program that I'm looking forward to for us to enter into.
All right. Well, with that, did you have another one? No. Oh, okay.
We were talking out of turn.
Excellent. All right. Well, not seeing that there is nothing else to report out, we will go ahead and adjourn this meeting at 9:36 p.m. Have a good evening, everyone.